Chapter 67. Learning the cultivation technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bailey Qingmiao said she was changing clothes, but Yin Hanjiang waited outside the door for 3 days and nights. After half an hour, Yin Hanjiang began to become impatient. He walked around and wanted to break the door with a hit, but since Bailey Qingmiao said that she was changing clothes, he was worried that he would accidentally see something if he entered. Yin Hanjiang originally did not care about accidentally seeing the woman's body, for him it was just a skin, not to mention nakedness. He had seen a lot of dead bones without flesh and blood. Xu Yanyan and Qiu Zongxue, two Xianyuan sect protectors, one regarding the skin as disgrace while other dressed casually. He had been dealing with these two for years, so Yin Hanjiang really had a hard time with the concept of gender distinction. When he finally wanted to kick the door open, Xu Yanyan, who was hanging out somewhere these days, smiled and blocked Yin Hanjiang's kick at the door by standing in front of it. "Patriarch Yin, don't be hasty, how can you barge in when a girl is changing her clothes?" Xu Yanyan looked calm, but in fact she was cursing inside. Just now, when Renhe sent her a message that Bailey Qingmiao was in meditation, Zhong Liqian was too busy, so he didn't want to bother him. Therefore he ordered Xu Yanyan to come and stop Yin Hanjiang from breaking the door so that Bailey Qingmiao would not be disturbed and the merciless Tao that she had finally understood would not be broken. When Renhe wanted to go out and explain it himself, but Yin Hanjiang's internal injuries would be triggered if he saw him, and also because when Renhe, who had always been as thick as a 100-year-old tree, had finally learned to be more gentle and considerate after experiencing the situation where his beloved was so close to vomiting blood and dying when he showed his heart. He thought that if he came out of the Bailey Qingmiao's room, Yin Hanjiang would be affected by the original plot and might think about it again. Therefore, they entrusted Xu Yanyan, who was the closest to Qiu Zongxue's pavilion, to solve the problem. As for why he did not choose Qiu Zongxue, does it even need a reason? When Xu Yanyan visited Zhong Liqian earlier and painfully picked up the other person's lost hair, she knew that when Renhe had returned, but still handed over the responsibility of taking charge of Xianyuan sect to Yin Hanjiang. When Renhe himself was intimidating to the Xianyuan sect, so Xu Yanyan instantly understood that from now on her boss would change from one person to two, making her feel a trace of sadness in her heart. Especially this time, that when Renhe pointed out that Xu Yanyan could not mention that it was his order, so Protector Xu felt even more embarrassed. To the extent that she understood why Zhong Liqian, a Mahayana realm cultivator, would have symptoms such as hair loss. Stroking her thick and beautiful black hair, Xu Yanyan smiled and said softly, "Patriarch Yin, you are a man, but it's a pity that your understanding of what men like and what they think is still not as good as it should be." She walked to Yin Hanjiang's side, approached his ear and whispered, "If you barge in like this, do you think Venerable will be happy that you saw Bailey Qingmiao without clothes?" Xu Yanyan thought Yin Hanjiang would suddenly realize it, but unexpectedly he just looked at the door in disdain and said proudly, "Venerable does not like Bailey Qingmiao." Xu Yanyan. She realized that she had really overestimated Yin Hanjiang, and seeing this man glancing at her smugly and wanting to enter the door again, she pulled him back and gritting her teeth she transmitted her voice. "I naturally know who Venerable likes, but the point of this matter is that you should not see Bailey Qingmiao changing clothes. You can't see anyone expect when Renhe changing their clothes, regardless of gender." Yin Hanjiang's foot was already pressed against the door ready to kick it down, but hearing Xu Yanyan words, his face suddenly turned red. Then he very slowly withdrew his leg and raised his face and chin, forcing the other to look at his nostrils, and said to Xu Yanyan, "Protector Xu is a pillar of Xianyuan sect, this matter. What does Protector Xu think should be done?" Xu Yanyan rolled her eyes in her heart, but on the surface she respectfully said to Yin Hanjiang, "How about I go in first and take a look to help you urge Bailey Qingmiao? This is how subordinates should be used, isn't it?" "Yeah." Yin Hanjiang stood with his arms folded and turned around with a calm expression, letting Xu Yanyan do it for him. Xu Yanyan went in and turned around. After she came out she said, "Bailey Qingmiao is sitting quietly and meditating." Yin Hanjiang. Can changing of clothes make you want to meditate? How do I know? Xu Yanyan said. If you break in rashly, you may become possessed. If Patriarch Yin can't wait, she recalled seeing Wen Renhe in the room and Wen Renhe asked her to persuade Yin Hanjiang to take it easy. They couldn't stimulate the other side, otherwise Yin Hanjiang might become possessed by heart demons again. Xu Yanyan finally understood why Zhong Liqian, who was usually like a clear moon and breeze, had become more and more haggard recently. She thought, how could there be anything in this world that can stump such a wise person like Zhong Liqian? Now that the problem was right in front of her, she came to realize what it was. But the two of them were in different situations. When Renhe wanted her to persuade Yin Hanjiang to be careful and handle it gently, never provoking the other side. The Devil Venerable only thought of how to be considerate to Patriarch Yin, but he never considered whether he can be gentle when he was teaching her a lesson. Fortunately, she was Xu Yanyan, a woman who had assisted 3 Xianyuan sect leaders, Old Patriarch, Devil Venerable Wen Renhe and Patriarch Yin. When she saw Yin Hanjiang's expression getting worse and worse, she smiled more and more sweetly and transmitted another message. If Patriarch Yin can't wait, why don't you take advantage of this time to practice other techniques? How about it? I am in a transitional period of heavenly tribulation. What other cultivation techniques in the cultivation world could be beneficial to me? Yin Hanjiang coldly said. That's not necessarily true, like, Xu Yanyan approached Yin Hanjiang and made a very easy to read gesture. Yin Hanjiang's skin was white and thin, so everything tended to show on his face when he got a little emotional. The redness on his face that had just faded surfaced again. Suddenly, he flung out his red robe blocking Xu Yanyan's sight, so when Protector Xu saw Yin Hanjiang again, there was already a ghost mask on his face. Although this patriarch is very powerful, it is not a bad idea to practice more mind techniques. Bailey Qingmiao still needs to spend some time in seclusion, so we will see if your mind techniques can let us pass the time. The voice under Yin Hanjiang's mask was very calm. Xu Yanyan. Just pretend, this protector has so many mind techniques, that you couldn't learn them in a year. She will not only teach them to you but also to Wen Renhe. At that time when this pair of dogs go into seclusion for 30 or 50 years, Xianyuan's sect will become mine. After cursing in her heart, Xu Yanyan still obediently invited Yin Hanjiang to her pavilion and taught him for 3 days and 3 nights in a row. Bailey Qingmiao had a merciless path foundation for a long time, but when she went through heavenly tribulation she was taken advantage of by her divine consciousness, suppressing her understanding. At this moment, with the help of the divine blood, Yin Hanjiang, Wen Renhe, Qiu Zongxue, Zhong Liqian and others, she was enlightened in one stroke, and in only 3 days she greatly improved. At the end of her meditation, there was a great enlightenment in his eyes, and she advanced to the void realm just 1 step away from Mahayana realm. Look at you, this time the heavenly tribulation of the soul merging realm to void realm had no impact on you. Wen Renhe said with satisfaction. Thanks to Senior Wen Renhe's guidance, Bailey already has a heart as calm as water. Bailey Qingmiao said indifferently. Then this venerable has one more thing to ask for. Wen Renhe said. This time to enter Shangqing sect, this venerable hope that you will let him use your body. Yin Hanjiang's mind was haunted by heart demons, so although he was strong, the Shangqing sect had the immortal weapon Moon Departing Bell as well as the blood demon ancestor, so Wen Renhe was worried about the consequences. He did not feel comfortable with Yin Hanjiang going alone, but whenever the two of them met, Yin Hanjiang would go mad because he could not distinguish between him and the illusion. In this way, the best way was to follow Yin Hanjiang by possessing Bailey Qingmiao, so if they encountered trouble he could secretly help them deal with it. In the past, Bailey Qingmiao would definitely not agree to this. It was already difficult for her to go lure He Wenchao by herself, let alone let Wen Renhe borrow her body. However, at this moment her thoughts were different. He Wenchao was a stumbling block to her cultivation of the merciless path. It was not easy to understand this Tao. It would also be bad if she made another mistake after seeing him, so this method would not only reassure Senior Wenrenha but also prevent her from wavering. Of course it's no problem. But first I want to thank you Senior Wenrenha. Bailey Qingmiao said. Wenrenha was different from the time he was a blood cultivator. He already used the trap to get rid of his blood cultivation, and at this moment his soul had a body made from chaotic energy. Chaotic energy was the only energy between heaven and earth before the beginning of the world. Everything was made from chaotic energy, so he could blend into any object without being discovered even by the blood demon ancestor. The person who walked out of the room was no longer Bailey Qingmiao, but Wenrenha, who wore the shell of Bailey Qingmiao. Knowing that Yin Hanjiang still had a grudge due to the original plot, he didn't intend to tell him that he possessed Bailey Qingmiao for their trip to the Shangqing sect. Yin Hanjiang had already returned from Xu Yanyan's pavilion, and it took him a lot of effort to suppress the flush on his face with genuine qi. Taking off his mask, he said coldly to Bailey Qingmiao. You told me to wait and made me waste time, now let's set out quickly and go back quickly. Then he put on the skin of Yao Jieping and without saying anything to Bailey Qingmiao, got up and flew to the Shangqing sect. Wenrenha was not good at disguising himself as another person, so seeing that Yin Hanyang didn't wait for his response, he silently followed after him. Yin Hanjiang could have flown with Bailey Qingmiao, but after he had practiced the heart method taught by Xu Yanyan, he completely rejected the idea of physical contact with another person. For example, in the past, when Yin Hanjiang killed someone, he would never object to using his own hands to strangle them. But after understanding some cultivation methods, Yin Hanjiang may choose to use a rope to strangle his opponent's neck or use other weapons to dig out his heart when he attacks others, preferring to use some medium rather than his own hands. He could turn into a vanishing light to take her with him or let her ride Alcade triangular bayonet with him, but Yin Hanjiang decided against these two options, so he had to go first and wait for Bailey Qingmiao on the way. The speed of Wenrenha's vanishing light was not slow, but because he was disguising himself as Bailey Qingmiao, he could not move so fast. With her cultivation in the Void Realm, it would take half a day to travel from Shenyuan sect to Shangqing sect. It was not convenient to take out the magic weapon made from divine blood. After all, if Wenrenha touched the divine blood, it would make him manifest himself, so it would be hard to possess her again. So he could only slowly control his speed, and seeing Yin Hanjiang disappear in the distance, he thought that this was not what he wanted. After flying for about an hour, Yin Hanjiang, who looked like Yao Jieping, flew back and said angrily, "You are too slow. This patriarch has been waiting for you at the foot of the Shangqing sect mountain tea house for half an hour." Wenrenha was thinking about the reasons for the explanation, when he saw Yin Hanjiang take out from his silver storage belt a robe made from heavenly silk. This rope could become shorter or longer and was used by Shenyuan sect people to tie people. Before, when Yin Hanjiang caught the dozen or so scum of the righteous path, he used this rope to bundle people into a ball and drag them back. Wait, Bailey Qingmiao was about to speak when Yin Hanjiang already tied her up into a dumpling and carried her on his shoulder all the way to the foot of the Shangqing sect. After arriving at the place, Yin Hanjiang coldly snorted, withdrew his robe and threw Bailey Qingmiao down. Wenrenha turned beautifully in the air, avoiding the landing on his face, and calmly landed on her feet before saying to Yin Hanjiang, "You could just let me ride on your sword, why do you have to do that? This patriarch is not close to you." Yin Hanjiang glanced coldly at the Bailey Qingmiao. "This patriarch will not hold you in his arms all the way and protect you." Wenrenha just wanted to say something, and then remembered that in the original plot of abusive love affair, Devil Venerable protected Bailey Qingmiao in his arms as they traveled by vanishing light. Yin Hanjiang seemed to be very concerned about the plot in the book. At first, Wenrenha thought that Yin Hanjiang cared about him liking Bailey Qingmiao in the plot, and that was why he treated her badly. He didn't know that Yin Hanjiang was angry because in that original plot, the Devil Venerable was so good to Bailey Qingmiao, but that woman only kept thinking about He Wen Chao. The person he had longed for so long had been abandoned like an old shoe. How could Yin Hanjiang not be angry? Therefore, even if these things did not happen at this moment, nor would they happen in future, Yin Hanjiang still felt a hint of, an indescribable displeasure towards Bailey Qingmiao. Thinking of this, he snorted coldly and used the body purification technique to wash his hands, wiping them with the corner of Bailey Qingmiao's clothes. When he arrived at the Shangqing sect, Yin Hanjiang was a bit more restrained. After all, he was Yao Jieping now. Before Yao Jieping left, he Wenchao give him his own token. Once Bailey Qingmiao was rescued and they returned to the feet of the Shangqing sect, Yao Jieping only had to crush the token and he Wenchao would go down the mountain and open the mountain protection array to meet them. Yin Hanjiang crushed the token, and when he Wenchao saw that from the outside the mountain protection formation that it was indeed Yao Jieping and Bailey Qingmiao, he excitedly opened the mountain protection formation and welcomed them in, greeting Yao Jieping first before opening his arms to hug Bailey Qingmiao while saying, "Junior Marshal Sister, I didn't mean to hurt." Before he could say the last word, he was kicked by Yao Jieping. Yin Hanjiang kicked away He Wenchao while also glaring at Bailey Qingmiao, thinking that she refused Venerable and still dared to let this thing hug her. Wen Renhe. The author has something to say. Zhong Liqian. Protector Shu, this does not seem appropriate. Shu Yanyan. I don't think so, they will thank me later. Wen Renhe after double cultivation. Protector Shu, although you acted boldly. You did a good job, this Venerable would like to thank you. Yin Hanjiang after double cultivation. The last heart method is not proficient enough, Protector Shu should explain more to this Venerable, thank you in advance. Zhong Liqian. Shu Yanyan. Look at it, a group of straight men can't do anything without this old lady. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 68. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yin Hanjiang's kick was not light, although he was holding back his strength. After all, Yao Jieping was a scattered immortal, but he still had to pretend a little, but of course his disguise was not very heartfelt. But He Wenchao was only in the void realm and was unprepared for the kick. How could he withstand the full blow of a scattered immortal? If it wasn't for the blood demon ancestor to protect him with genuine qi in time, this kick would directly displace his internal organs. The blood demon ancestor still cherished He Wenchao, a host with the potential to ascend to a higher realm, so the blood demon ancestor could go with him and absorb people of higher realms. What are you doing? He Wenchao climbed up and said angrily. He and Yao Jieping were good friends. Shangqing sect master was also saved by Yao Jieping, who later decided to also help He Wenchao infiltrate the Xianyuan sect and save Bailey Qingmiao after he felt his deep love for her. Yao Jieping always had a strange temper and the majority of the cultivation world knew his reputation, but he always spoke to He Wenchao from the bottom of his heart, so it was only natural that He Wenchao would be angry since he had never been treated in this way before. It was too difficult for Yin Hanjiang to imitate Yao Jieping, and he was not able to fake another person's personality. Luckily, he had read The God of Destruction, Volume 2, and become familiar with Yao Jieping catchphrases and what he used to say, so he recited the characters' lines from the book. Oh, I just don't like the harmony between happy couples. In the original book, Yao Jieping was such a twisted character that he was quite upset whenever he saw a couple asking for his help. He would give the patient two options, one for the woman to give him her body and the other was to hand over what they cared about the most. When Bailey Qingmiao brought Xie Huai seeking medical help, Yao Jieping asked her to either surrender her nascent soul or give herself to him. But when He Wenchao, during his travels, brought Miss Gongxi to seek medical help, at that time he could only say that he and Miss Gongxi were just a casual acquaintance and weren't a couple. He was also not willing to let Yao Jieping tarnish an innocent girl, so he was willing to become Yao Jieping's person. After Yao Jieping saved Miss Gongxi, he tortured He Wenchao for about a month while He Wenchao gritting his teeth endured it. Later, he made a breakthrough by chance or coincidence, making his cultivation increase greatly under the effect of medicine. From then on, Yao Jieping became extremely curious about He Wenchao while also admiring his chivalrous heart as the two of them became good friends. He Wenchao met Yao Jiaping within the 30 years of being separated from Bailey Qingyao. The two had been friends for more than 20 years and he never expected that one day, Yao Jiaping would say something to himself that would make things difficult for the other cultivator. Thinking of Yao Jiaping's habit, he immediately asked, Bailey Qingyao. Junior sister, did he do anything to you? A bad idea arose in He Wenchao's heart, looking pale. He took a 2-step back as he shook his head and said. No, it can't be like this. Yin Hanjiang didn't care what He Wenchao thought, he only had one purpose this time, to capture He Wenchao. Now he was in the vicinity of the mountain protection array and He Wenchao was alone, the blood demon ancestor could be captured with one move of seal. The mountain protection formation was easy to get out of and hard to get into, so it would be much easier for him and Bailey Qingyao to leave. Yin Hanjiang was not in the mood to entangle with Bailey Qingyao and He Wenchao and only wanted a quick fight before capturing and bringing the person back before he could wait for the next soul healing from the Devil Venerable. To subdue the blood demon ancestor in an instant, the power of Alcade triangular bayonet was enough, and the burning sky drum didn't need to be used. Yin Hanjing's cause of the illusion was not only heart demons but also burning sky drum. The heart demons only made Yin Hanjiang insane, but the illusion's manifestation was definitely caused by the burning sky drum. It was only normal for people who were not strong enough to use a top-level immortal weapon to suffer a backlash. After estimating the consequences of the backlash of the burning sky drum, Yin Hanjiang believed he could bear it, so he secretly spread his hand and secretly performed the spirit technique to activate the burning sky drum in his sleeve. At that moment, the Shangqing sect master came in person and said with some delight, seeing Yao Jiaping. When I saw He Wenchao open the array, I guessed that Master Yao should have come back. Master Yao came just in time, this way sir. Yin Hanjiang's face twitched when he saw the Shangqing sect's master. His two enemies right in front of him, he was so happy that he almost couldn't maintain the outside skin. When Wenrenha saw this, he stepped forward to hold Yin Hanjiang's hand, worried about his impulsiveness. Even Wenrenha, who borrowed Lu Xinya body last time to come to Shangqing sect, endured his nausea as he met He Wenchao. If it was He Wenchao alone, it wouldn't be too difficult for the two of them to join forces to capture him and take him away quickly. But now that the sect master of Shangqing sect was here and they were on the other side's turf while the number of hidden cards in Shangqing sect hand was still unknown, they couldn't make any rush moves for the time being. He Wenchao saw that Bailey Qingyao took the initiative to hold the hand of Yao Jiaping and became so angry that his eyes were almost bleeding. However, Yao Jiaping shook her hand off and looked at Bailey Qingyao with stern gaze, reciting the lines of Yao Jiaping from The God of Destruction, Volume 2. How can you compare yourself to Xiao Yi? At the same time, Yin Hanjiang said with a voice transmission. I know what you mean, I have other plans for the sect master of Shangqing sect, so I really am not going to kill them both at this time. He took a deep breath, calmed down, and said coldly to the sect master of Shangqing sect. Seeing this urgent look on your face, you want me to heal someone, right? Exactly, the sect master of Shangqing sect ignored the strange atmosphere between He Wenchao, Bailey Qingyao, and Yao Jiaping for the time being. He was ashamed of Bailey Qingyao but could not interfere with the feelings of the younger generation, so he just ignored them and said to Yao Jiaping. My sect discipline was trapped in Shenyuan sect and Master Yao has risked his life to save the Shangqing sect already owes you a great debt of gratitude, so I can't bother Master Yao anymore. But at this moment, Qingyue's life is in danger and only Master Yao can save him in this world. Whether Master Yao can save my younger martial brother Qingyue, as long as you are willing to try, in future as long as it does not go against the way of heaven, the entire Shangqing sect will go through fire and water to assist you. When Yin Hanjiang heard the sect master words, he raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't need to come in future to have something that Shangqing sect should do, he also didn't need them to go against the way of heaven or go through fire and water, it was just a very small thing. In that case, it was okay to pretend to be fooled. Well, take me there. Yin Hanjiang nodded. He followed the sect master into the flying boat of Shangqing sect. Bailey Qingmiao also followed closely behind. When He Wenchao saw that his younger martial sister didn't even look at him and followed Yao Jieping, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Come quickly. The sect master gave He Wenchao a warning look. This disciple was good at everything, but he was too indulgent with the female sex. It was not like he was unaware of the fact that even though He Wenchao was married to Lu Xinye, he still secretly communicated with the eldest lady of the Gongxi aristocratic family, and had an affair with several fellow martial sisters. While still thinking about Bailey Qingmiao in his heart. If not for the fact that He Wenchao could pacify these few women properly and did not cause trouble, had high cultivation and was the future pillar of the Shangqing sect, the sect master would have already punished him. Now, well, he had to turn a blind eye. But Yao Jieping was the benefactor of the Shangqing sect. When the sect master was previously injured, he was healed by him. Now Elder Qin Yu's injury also needed Yao Jieping help, so how could he let He Wenchao turn against Yao Jieping for a woman? He Wenchao received the sect master's warning and finally suppressed the resentment in his heart, clenching his fist tightly, thinking in his heart that the revenge of taking his wife must not be forgotten. After this incident, he must find Yao Jieping to seek justice. He asked him to help him save his beloved, but how could he take her for himself? Aren't they still brothers? He and younger martial sister were childhood friends who grew up together. How could he let Yao Jieping interfere? Yin Hanjiang, of course, did not know the art of medicine and only wanted to keep up the appearance as well as know how this person became injured. Coming to the side hall, he glanced at the elder Qin Yue, who had a head full of white hair and face full of wrinkles and discoloration. He took his pulse in solemnly while the sect master was telling him the cause of Qin Yu's injury. A year and a half ago, in the battle against the Devil Venerable at Underworld Blood Sea, the new patriarch of Xianyuan's sect was so desperate that he used his immortal weapon against the heavenly tribulation. We were lucky being able to return to the sect, but that man tried to break the array with the burning sky drum. In order to protect the Shangqing sect, Master Qingyue used our sect's immortal weapon to protect the array and had his genuine qi drained by the immortal weapon, suffering 5 failures of celestial beings. The Shangqing sect used various pills to keep him alive, but he can't survive any longer and his lamp is almost dried up. It turns out that he was the one who blocked me that day. Yin Hanjiang looked at Qingyue's face and thought it could be called karma, right? His lamp is almost drying up. Don't worry, he will let this lamp wither, making the Qinyu the first one. When he came to the Shangqing sect this time, Yin Hanjiang only felt like he had encountered a treasure trove. Randomly meeting people he had grudges against was too wonderful. Yao Jieping's face twisted again, as if the flesh under his skin was laughing wildly, but the skin was motionless. It was very strange. Seeing his expression, the sect master anxiously asked. Could it be that even Master Yao can't cure him? Younger martial brother. It was the elder martial brother who hurt you. In order to maintain the dignity of the sect leader, he deliberately made himself look like a middle-aged man, with dark hair and long beard, like a mortal official, which was the most beloved appearance among mortals at this moment. From the sect leader's eyes dropped a line of tears. Half kneeling in front of Elder Qin Yu bed, he sobbed uncontrollably. Bailey Qingmiao came forward and looked at Qin Yu and couldn't help but voice transmits to Yin Hanjiang. He can be saved. When Renhe directly used Bailey Qingmiao's body to transmit the message, even if it was a voice transmission, the voice was also of Bailey Qingmiao. He had previously absorbed Yao Jieping memory and knew that this disease could be healed, so he transmitted his voice to tell Yin Hanjiang. As long as a Mahayana realm cultivator is willing to use up his genuine qi to share his life with him and use pills to supplement it, he can recover to soul transformation realm. But at most to the soul transformation realm, there will also be no further possibility of advancement. Another way is to find the legendary 5 souls of heavenly beings. Except for innate gods who are born from heaven and earth, the 5 failures of celestial beings are a calamity for all things. Cultivation is only delaying the process. The only thing that can cure suffering from 5 failures of celestial beings is 5 souls of heavenly beings, but that is a thing of the divine realm that even gods wanted to get. Yan Hanjiang glanced at Bailey Qingmiao. Why would she speak about things that could not be obtained? I can. Bailey Qingmiao, voice transmitted. In the original plot, Bailey Qingmiao got it when she mistakenly entered an innate small world, and then naturally gave it to He Wenchao. The 5 souls of heavenly beings were destined to be attracted to the innate gods. This time, even without He Wenchao injury as an opportunity, 5 souls of heavenly beings were obtained by Bailey Qingmiao during her 30 years of travel, but she, Zhong Liqian, Qiu Congxue and Xie Huai could not recognize this thing, only that it was a divine object, so they kept it in their collections. Yin Hanjiang secretly warned. Don't even think about messing with my business. Then he turned his head to look at the Shangqing sect's only remaining Mahayana realm expert, the sect master, and smiled kindly as he spoke. There is a way. He didn't mention the matter of the 5 souls of heavenly beings at all, and only the first method, adding. I can teach you the method of sharing life and can also refine pills. Whether or not you will use the Mahayana realm in exchange for a soul transformation cultivator who will never be able to advance and will still experience 5 failures of celestial beings for the next 500 years, it is up to you to decide. This, sect master of Shangqing sect said with a shocked expression. Isn't there any other way? What can I, a scattered immortal, do about 5 failures of celestial beings that even gods in upper realms cannot escape? Yin Hanjiang sat down on a chair in the side hall and looked coldly at the Shangqing sect master and said. To save or not to save, it depends on you. As for my consultation money, also do not say, in future. Yin Hanjiang looked at He Wenchao and smiled maliciously. He put on his gloved hand at the back of Bailey Qingmiao's neck and said to He Wenchao. How about giving her to me? The author has something to say. Yin Hanjiang. The lamp oil is everywhere, I'm so happy. I can't help but want to set off a firework to celebrate, so where do I start? Wen Renhe. Calm down, calm down. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 69. Rumors spreads. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Rumors spreads. As a doctor, Ao Jeping was above everyone else, his contempt for other people, his so-called affection for Xiaoyi, and his disdain for other women. Yin Hanjiang's imitation was not particularly good, but with the treatment method that Wen Renhe gave him, it was enough to pretend to be this person. When He Wenchao saw that Bailey Qingmiao was still held by Yao Jiaping, looking docile, he was so angry that his body trembled as he pointed at Yao Jiaping and said. I thought of you as my best friend, my righteous brother, but you treat me like this. Besides, you are infatuated with Xiaoyi. What do you want my junior martial sister for? Oh. Yin Hanjiang slowly responded, enjoying looking at He Wenchao's expression as he used Bailey Qingmiao's skirt to wipe his hand that just touched Elder Qingyue. This woman is qualified to become my rag. Junior martial sister. Are you willing to be humiliated by him like this? He Wenchao yelled at Bailey Qingmiao. If Xu Yanyan pretended to be Bailey Qingmiao, her eyes would fill with tears showing her desire to speak, showing a kind-hearted woman who had to be aggrieved for the sake of her master. Unfortunately, the person who was there was Wen Renhe. The disguise of Yao Jiaping allowed him to see another side of Yin Hanjiang. No longer sad, acted spontaneously. It turns out that this was Yin Hanjiang's true nature. He was indeed not suitable to be a sword cultivator. The first stage of sword cultivation was sharpness and clarity, the second stage was restrain, and the final stage was no sword was better than a sword, every movement should show the edge of the sword. But Yin Hanjiang was only sharpness, so when his realm was still low he cultivated very fast, but after reaching the void realm, it was difficult for him to make progress. But after he stopped sword cultivation, he instantly broke through to the Mahayana realm and reached its peak. When Renhe felt that in the past, he had delayed Yin Hanjiang's growth, but this time also felt new. The way he put his gloved hand and squeezed the back of Bailey Qingmiao's neck, made him feel he was obedient and cute. But in such a state of mind, how could he perform the feeling of being forced while still remaining righteous? The only thing that Wen Renhe could was to use his sleeve to hide his almost uncontrollable laughter, and turn his head to the side as if he was aggrieved. Not allowing He Wenchao see his face, but in fact his heart nearly burst into laughter. This action of his, barely qualified. In He Wenchao heart Bailey Qingmiao became a woman who was heartbroken and helpless after being bullied, feeling unworthy of himself. She didn't even dare to look at him anymore. Yao Jeping, I'll break off friendship with you. Before He Wenchao could finish speaking, sect master of the Shangqing sect waved his long sleeve, standing in front of He Wenchao as he bowed politely to Yao Jeping and asked. Younger martial brother suffered this serious injury to save me and He Wenchao, I must save him. Although he can only be alive for 500 years, he might still encounter other chances to advance. I am the only Mahayana realm cultivator in Shangqing sect, so naturally I will be the one to save my younger martial brother. Sect Master looked at Bailey Qingmiao and said after being silent for a moment. Master Yao, as for the consultation fee, this poor cultivator thinks that Bailey Qingmiao could not be the consultation fee. She is a disciple of the Shangqing sect, even if she had gone astray, the Shangqing sect will not exchange her out as an object. I have watched Bailey Qingmiao grow up, she is a kind and simple woman, perhaps easily cheated, but will not do things that go against the way of heaven. If Master Yao needs a medicine boy or rag, this poor cultivator can take care of it, but Bailey Qingmiao can never be given to you. Hearing his words, Yin Hanjiang and Wen Renhe looked righteous. Yin Hanjiang had a gloomy and somewhat harsh personality, but he had been influenced by Wen Renhe since he was young. He had considerable admiration for such acts of willingness to give his life to protect others. Of course, if he didn't know that Wen Renhe was still alive, even if he admired it, Yin Hanjiang would never go easy on them, so it was a good thing that Wen Renhe survived so Yin Hanjiang could become a lot softer. He got up and said. What is the meaning of people in the Foundation realm? What is the use of Bailey Qingmiao? I still lack a rag, but it's just a joke that she will be exchanged for the medical treatment, let's treat him first. Yin Hanjiang wrote down the method for the life transfer method and prescription the complementary pills. The herbs were all common and Shangqing sect warehouse was well stocked so they could be refined at ant time, but it still would take 3 to 5 days to be refined. But how could Yin Hanjiang refine pills? The prescription was provided by Bailey Qingmiao, so he ordered Bailey Qingmiao to be a medicine boy to help with the fan or something. After the sect master of the Shangqing sect received the prescription, he felt so happy that he sat in front of Qing Yu's bed and cried with joy. Younger martial brother, you are finally saved. Senior material brother, Elder Qing Yu reached out his hand and feebly grabbed the prescription and tried to tear it apart. No, you are on track to ascend, you shouldn't waste your talent for me, the sect also needs you. The sect master said with a straight face. Younger martial brother, gain and loss is sometimes not measured by value. Saving you is my heart's desire, although I will fall back to the foundation building realm and cultivating will become more difficult than before, it's still not without hope. As for the sect, He Wenchao is already an adult so I can safely leave the Shangqing sect to him. Yao Jeping stood aside and coldly watched the sect master of Shangqing sect and Elder Qing Yu, the flesh under moving a little, his expression gloomy. Qing Yu needed to take some pills before he could bear the life transfer method. Yao Jeping would refine pills in front of the medicine furnace these days and would not allow others to approach him, so he arranged an array outside the door and stayed in the room with Bailey Qingmiao. At this time, a lot of rumors about Bailey Qingmiao have been spread within the sect. After He Wenchao went back to his rooms, he cursed Yao Jeping and was overheard by Lu Xinyue, who later secretly publicized Bailey Qingmiao's affair with Yao Jeping in the sect, saying that not only did she pay homage to the Xianyuan sect but she also became Yao Jeping's person. She said that not only did she study under Protector Qiu of the Xianyuan sect but she also practiced the cultivation method of the right protector of Xianyuan sect Xu Yanyan. In order to improve her cultivation she had to double cultivate with Yao Jeping, but after double cultivating with him she was discarded by him as a rag. There were even rumors that the reason why Bailey Qingmiao cultivation increased so quickly was because of the benefits she gained from repeatedly cultivating with Zhong Liqian during her 30 years of travels, and she did not even spare her young apprentice Xie Huai. There were even more people who said that Bailey Qingmiao's soul-bound magic weapon was broken, but she was able to come back alive, so maybe when she was in Xianyuan's sect she was able to heal thanks to receiving the favor of the two previous sect masters. In less than 2 days, Bailey Qingmiao's reputation in the Shangqing sect had become that of a woman who can be used as a cheap substitute. The target of the rumors was not only Yao Jieping, but also Wen Renhe, Zhong Liqian and Yin Hanjiang, the 4 supporting characters in abusive love affair. In the original plot, Lu Xinye, in order to destroy the relationship between He Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao, spread the same rumors, making He Wenchao misunderstand Bailey Qingmiao. No matter how she explained it, he didn't listen to it and abused the heroine severely. In these days of rumors, Yin Hanjiang and Bailey Qingmiao concentrated on alchemy. The main work was done by Bailey Qingmiao, who refined the pill while Yin Hanjiang sat in the chair in the medicine hall, taking out the God of Destruction, Volume 2, to contemplate. He meditated on means to change the person who performed the life transfer method from the sect master to He Wenchao. The requirement for a life transfer method was that the person had to be in the Mahayana realm, and He Wenchao realm was not enough. However, Yin Hanjiang could see that he had already made a breakthrough, especially when he was angered by Yao Jieping. He Wenchao was so angry that he advanced on the spot. It was also mentioned in the God of Destruction, Volume 2, that every time Bailey Qingmiao was taken away by someone, He Wenchao cultivation would advance before or during the battle and defeat his stronger opponent and rescue the beauty. In his current void realm, if he fought against the scattered immortal Yao Jieping and overcame a much stronger opponent, there was still hope to promote him to the Mahayana realm. The Mahayana realm was enough to save his life. Making He Wenchao become a foundation-building cultivator and let the sect master of the Shangqing sect watch the future pillar of the sect become a waste, making Qingyue elder regret it for the rest of his life, it seemed more interesting than killing him. The sect master of the Shangqing sect and elder Qingyue were both traditional and virtuous practitioners of the righteous path. If they were killed by demonic cultivators, they would only think of making contributions to the righteous path, thinking they deserved to die. Killing them was meaningless, rather watching them suffer would be better. Yin Hanjiang pushed the skin on his face, making Yao Jieping's expression look more happy according to his mood. Wen Renhe, who was secretly watching him from the side. The most difficult part of alchemy was starting the fire and collecting the pills. The process was not very complicated since you just needed to stabilize the furnace fire, so for the rest of time Wen Renhe was very idle. Yin Hanjiang has nothing to say to Bailey Qingmiao in private, so the two of them avoided each other. One stayed in the inner room and another in the outer room so they would not interfere with each other. Wen Renhe also took advantage of Yin Hanjiang's distraction to read 2 books using the pill furnace to block the view. Before reading the book, Wen Renhe deliberately shielded Bailey Qingmiao's perception, not allowing her to see the contents of the book, to prevent readers outside the book from discovering that the characters in the book already knew that they were in the book. The comments below the God of Destruction poured like water, cursing the author. They didn't expect that Bailey Qingmiao, who had always been regarded as part of He Wenchao harem, would be given to the protagonist's good brother. This kind of plot with wearing a green hat was simply disgusting. Many readers abandoned the novel while others said since it was a revised version, it didn't cost money and insisted to see it until the end, to see how this novel could abuse the protagonist even more. The readers of Abusive Love Affair through the perspective of Bailey Qingmiao, knew that this Yao Jieping was actually Yin Hanjiang in disguise and the person who was in Bailey Qingmiao's body was Wen Renhe. The female lead herself was also able to perceive what was happening but did not interfere, presenting the readers with everything that happened in the Shangqing sect, making the comment section explode for a while. Bailey Qingmiao started cultivating the merciless path and the author changed the type of novel to CP. I have followed romance novels for so long, and there is finally a novel about the feeling of a heroine that can go against the way of heaven. I should have scolded the author, but why does it feel so good? The reason is that it is really cool. In the revised version, the heroine did not suffer any grievances. Every time the vicious villain of the male lead tried to bully her, there was always some strong sister or handsome brother to help her. The term strong sister upstairs is used very vividly, referring to a certain person completely. You can say her name out loud, Elder Qin Shui, our favorite protector Qiu Congxue. An independent woman, a woman who regards even her perfect body as no more than dirt, a woman who is bent on making herself a white-boned skeleton, in the biological sense of the word. The plot really changed from the moment the female lead saved Qiu Congxue instead of the devilish male lead number 2 after the battle between the righteous and demonic path. Yes, He Wenchao was injured. Qiu Congxue dragged the heroine away, preventing her from taking care of him. He Wenchao slept with Elder Marshall's sister Lu, and Elder Qin Shui arranged the marriage. During the wedding of He Wenchao, Elder Qin Shui interfered and took the female lead to Xianyuan sect to bind her to Zhong Liqian, making the 4-person group travel for 30 years. Where is the abusive love from this novel? It is always so funny and good now. Giving the first merit to Protector Qiu is right, but the second should be given to the Devil Venerable. What kind of brain circuit can think of using the tracking spell and the compulsion goo to pull a match? Devil Venerable, you don't understand love. The third merit should definitely be our Liqian. I beg the author, please feel sorry for our Liqian. In the Xianyuan sect, Protector Shu devotes herself to enjoying beautiful men. Protector Qiu is abusing people and being abused. Altar Master Miao is said to be researching new goo worms. Altar Master Wan is like a turtle in hibernation making little appearance. Altar Master Shirtan is doing errands all day long. And the only one doing the work is Liqian. There are so many people in Xianyuan sect, but the sect's internal affairs are all handed over to a newly appointed main altar master. Don't you feel guilty? Liqian's hair is almost gone, save him. Fourth nomination, Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang really impressed me this time. Not only did he not use female lead to refine oil for a lamp, but he also woke her up and helped her cultivate the merciless path. In the first version, Yin Hanjiang makes people feel like they're reading a horror novel, but the more you look at the revised version, the more adorable he seems. He was very handsome, kicking He Wenchao, pinching the skin on the back of the heroine's neck while saying that he wanted her. What a fright. I suddenly started fantasizing about overbearing president. I always thought that the best way to abuse the scum is to return what he has done to the heroine, but that would be too much of a disadvantage for us girls. But now, Yin Hanjiang made me feel fulfilled. He Shiji, now you finally know what it's like to watch your sweetheart have a relationship with someone else, right? Forgive, be magnanimous and still have unrealistic ideas. There is no third party in love, so you can't be magnanimous. Well said. But there's a problem. Who is he Shiji? If I can hear the way in the morning, in the evening I can die content. Confucius. You can die at night if you understand benevolence in the morning. He is a scum. If it weren't for the female lead without CP, I would almost pair Yin Hanjiang and Bailey Qingmiao, covering my face. Stop your dangerous thoughts. Now the person who uses Bailey Qingmiao's body is Wen Renhe, and Yin Hanjiang is Wen Renhe person. Wen Renhe's fingertips traced the words Yin Hanjiang is Wen Renhe and smiled softly. Although abusive love affair is from the perspective of the female lead, but occasionally when there is a vicious villains who want to harm the female lead, it will still give a little bit of text from God perspective, so that the reader can see the bad things the villains did and worry about female lead. When Renhe found out what Lu Xinye was doing and was thinking about how to fight back when he heard Yin Hanjiang say from the inner room, "Wipe. Bailey Qingmiao, come here." When Renhe quickly put away the books and came to Yin Hanjiang's side, seeing him smiling cheerfully, he extended his hand to Bailey Qingmiao and said, "Give me Lu Xinye soul oath, this patriarch has a plan. The author has something to say." Yin Hanjiang pushed his face, practicing smiling in the mirror to look more natural. Wen Renhe. Cute. Onlookers. Please stop laughing. Is this a horror novel? Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 70. Everything is ready. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yin Hanjiang ordered Lu Xinye to come to him in the middle of the night and to not be found. If she disobeyed, he would crush the jade talisman with the oath, causing her soul to be seriously injured. Lu Xinye had no choice but to take advantage of He Wenchao drinking wine to run out and enter the alchemy room, looking at Yao Jiaping with a frightened expression. How do you have my soul oath? When I entered Shenyuan sect, I healed people. The left protector of the Shenyuan sect, Qiu Zongxue, was injured, and after I cured her I took it as my medical fee. Yin Hanjiang played with the soul oath jade talisman carelessly while saying, I usually give two options for my consultation fee. One is the most important thing to the patient and another is, you should also have heard about it. Lu Xinye, with tears in her eyes, was actually about to rip her clothes off while saying accusingly, once is enough, right? Yin Hanjiang. He hurriedly pointed at Lu Xinye with a finger filled with genuine qi to prevent her from continuing to take off clothes. Also, Yao Jiaping's skin was not stable enough. Without showing blush or panic, it was like wearing a mask, making Yin Hanjiang very relieved. He said calmly, you think too highly of yourself. I'm not interested in you. I want what's most important to you. I won't let you take away my nascent soul or soul-bound magic weapon. Lu Xinye said unwillingly. Yin Hanjiang. I don't care about those either, I just want you to do one thing. During the conversation, Beili Qingmiao came over in silence, holding a transparent talisman in her hands, which was refined by Wen Renhe with chaos energy. He burned the spell and put it into a cup of water, pouring the water from a jade bottle before handing it to Lu Xinye. Find a way to make He Wenchao drink this. Yin Hanjiang said. Lu Xinye did not dare to take the jade bottle and said, what are you going to do to Wenchao? The worst thing it can do is turn him back to foundation building realm. After all, he is not allowed to die and is my good brother as well. Yao Jiaping laughed. If you don't agree, it's okay for you to become the foundation building cultivator instead. I promise. Lu Xinye grabbed the jade bottle and said decisively. Senior material sister Lu, aren't you able to give up everything for your senior martial brother? Back then you lost your own cultivation to save him, why are you making this choice now? The person who asked this was Beili Qingmiao herself. She had entered the path of mercilessness, so even when she saw He Wenchao, her heart was still as calm as water. She also didn't stop Yin Hanjiang, who wanted to frame He Wenchao to replace the sect master. After all, Elder Qin Yu sacrificed his life to save the sect master and He Wenchao. The sect master had the grace to raise and teach He Wenchao. As long as He Wenchao's strength was sufficient, he should save Qin Yu for the same reason. If it was Beili Qingmiao, she would have given up her life. She just didn't understand why senior martial sister Lu made a completely different choice than she did back then. Ha 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 ha. Lu Xinye suddenly laughed furiously. She laughed while she shed tears and said, I love him, I have loved him since I was a child. I also worked hard to cultivate to be worthy of him, wishing that I could marry him. Her hands squeezed the jade bottle as her eyes gradually became rigid, her voice no longer soft. But what about him? On the day of the wedding, do you know whose name he shouted when he hugged me? It was you, Beili Qingmiao. Did he think I didn't know what happened between him and Gongxi Jin when he was out on a training trip? Did he think I didn't hear him say in his private talks with the others that he liked Gongxi Jin's eyes because they were so much like yours? I was married to him for 33 years, but did he look at me? Obviously. In the past, when we cultivated together, he would smile at me and quarrel with you to protect me. But after the marriage, did he care about my feelings? I already see it clearly, nothing is as good as being strong yourself. She looked at Bailey Qingmiao with eyes filled with undisguised jealousy, but Bailey Qingmiao didn't care anymore. If she had married her senior material brother, she probably would have become like this, blinded by jealousy, dazed, and eventually becoming the person she had once disliked. Bailey Qingmiao shook her head and let out a low sigh, "I understand," and retreated, leaving Wen Renhe and Yin Hanjiang to handle it. Yin Hanjiang cast the spell, and the jade token turned into a light and plunged into Lu Xinya's body. After completing the task, the soul oath would naturally end, but if it was not completed, the soul oath would directly cause Lu Xinya to explode and die. Looking at her now, she must no longer have the courage to sacrifice her life for He Wenchao. After Lu Xinya left, Yin Hanjiang looked at Bailey Qingmiao and asked, "Who taught you the method of treating Qin Yu and life transfer method?" At this moment it was Wen Renhe again, so he said calmly, "Zhong Liqian taught me." Zhong Liqian was a brick of the Xianyuan sect, moving wherever it was needed, and was particularly good at it. He knew a little bit about everything, and although his medical skills were not as good as Yao Jiaping, he still knew a lot. Qiu Zongxue was cured by Zhong Liqian, and it was also his idea to use Altar Master Shirtan's sickness qi to stop Bailey Qingmiao from killing herself. It was not surprising that Bailey Qingmiao, who had been with Zhong Liqian for so many years, learned some skills. Yin Hanjiang stared at Bailey Qingmiao, put on the gloves and pinched her chin for a while, then shaking his head he said, "If it wasn't for the way you treated Lu Xinya, I would have thought." He didn't say any more as he hurried Bailey Qingmiao to refine pills, returning to the inner room alone. He thought, "Only 3 days have passed and I'm already confused. How can I miss Venerable to the point of taking Bailey Qingmiao as him? It's really ridiculous." Thinking of this, Yin Hanjiang looked sideways at the illusion sitting on the chair next to him and stared at him for a while. He thought that when he returned to the sect, he would heal his soul, and he was looking forward to it in his heart. But he was also a bit afraid, worried that he would vomit blood again when he saw his lord and cause him worry. After thinking about it for a while, his mood was a little uncertain, so he occupied himself with chanting the clear heart mantra to prevent himself from being exposed in the Shangqing sect. Before entering his soul for the second time, when Renhe couldn't meet Yin Hanjiang and could only look at him with the concerned eyes of Bailey Qingmiao. After 2 more days, the pills were completed, so when Renhe put them on a tray and followed Yin Hanjiang out of the room. When the sect master of Shangqing sect received the pills, he felt something and waited outside the door with many disciples. After Yin Hanjiang went out, he glanced at Lu Xinya in the corner, who nodded secretly. She was extraordinarily attentive and gentle to He Wenchao last night, talking softly to him and drinking with her husband. He Wenchao didn't like Lu Xinya very much, but he could not resist the softness and warmth. He drank a few cups of wine with Lu Xinya, and after warming up, drank the talisman water Lu Xinya prepared for him. The talisman water was also a refining of chaotic energy, was odorless and colorless, and helped He Wenchao advance to Mahayana realm in one night. Yin Hanjiang had known about this through his soul oath, making everything ready. He just took 2 steps with Bailey Qingmiao, when he heard several disciples gossiping about Bailey Qingmiao, saying that she and Yao Jiaping were alone these days and no one knew how many immoral things they had done together. They also said that they didn't know how she pleased Wen Renhe, Zhong Liqian, Yin Hanjiang and others in the past to have these skills. Yin Hanjiang's cultivation was extremely high, so he could hear all voice transmission of cultivators below the soul transformation realm. Originally, he did not want to pay attention to this matter, but when he heard that they were talking about his lord, he became furious. A flash appeared next to several gossiping disciples, and with this flash of cold light in his palm, several tongues fell down. Ha! The disciples of the Shangqing sect, both injured and uninjured, all screamed miserably. Noisy! Yin Hanjiang said impatiently. Suddenly everyone covered their mouths, not daring to say anything more, but the sect master said with a very ugly expression. "Master Yao, what is your reason for this? If you can't speak, don't say anything." Yin Hanjiang stared sternly at several disciples. Do you need me to repeat the content of your voice transmission? Several disciples blushed deeply as they shook their heads frantically in fear. Seeing their appearance, the sect master knew that these people had offended Master Yao by transmitting false rumors. But since they were so weak, they were overheard. Although the Yao Jiaping method was vicious, in the end, it was the Shangqing sect that was at fault. The sect master ordered. Those who speak nonsense, slap yourself 100 times and keep your mouth shut for 10 years. Several disciples received orders and were just about to pick up their tongues and find a medical cultivator in the medicine hall to heal them when they heard Yao Jiaping say, "Hold on." Yin Hanjiang looked at Bailey Qingmiao with pleasure in his eyes and said to her, "Pick it up, it's yours." Wen Renhe. He could only say reluctantly, "Thank you Master Yao, but Bailey doesn't need it." "How can you not need it?" Yin Hanjiang said without a smile. "They were talking about rumors about you, you can dry these tongues and string them up to make a necklace to hang around your neck. Looking at it will make you more alert so that you can remind yourself not to let the rumors go around in the future, right? Go now." The last sentence was chilling. When Renhe sighed lightly, took out a handkerchief and wrapped the tongues generously, saying to Yin Hanjiang, "Thank you for your teaching Master Yao. Is this how you've been treating junior martial sister?" He Wenchao was red from anger. "So what?" Yin Hanjiang looked at He Wenchao from his side. "It's better than not speaking out to help her even though you know she is being insulted by the rumors, right?" Without giving He Wenchao a chance, Yin Hanjiang said to the sect master, "These pills are for you, take it 4 hours before life transfer. In addition to the person who will perform the life transfer, you also need another expert to protect the array outside, preferably a lightning spirit root." He said that he wanted He Wenchao to protect the formation. He Wenchao was also saved by Qin Yu, so it is only natural that he should protect the formation. While arranging the formation, the blood demon ancestor said to He Wenchao in his mind, "Strange, at the beginning, Yao Jiaping did not need someone to protect the formation, why does he need someone now? At that time, he and little sister were still outside, so he just wanted to humiliate me, letting me watch my little sister suffer." He Wenchao said angrily. "Well, being in the Shangqing sect, I don't think he can make any waves. But this Yao Jiaping used to be so radical?" Blood demon ancestor asked. He Wenchao remembered the days when he used to be Yao Jiaping's person. At that time he didn't feel anything, but now thinking back he couldn't help but shudder, he said. "Naturally, this is the case. Master, do you still remember what he did to me?" "That's true," the blood demon ancestor sighed. "At that time, I only thought he was obsessed, but now it seems that he is a good seedling for demonic cultivation." "What did you say, Master?" "Nothing, the formation is set up, you should go." Blood demon ancestor dispelled his doubts before his awareness drowned. For some reason, the blood demon ancestor was very tired today and wanted to sleep to recuperate. He Wenchao stood at the position designated by Yin Hanjiang and saw Bailey Qingmiao walking past, grabbing her wrist. He said, "Younger martial sister," Bailey Qingmiao, with a flip of the sleeve, avoided contact with He Wenchao and said to him, "Senior martial brother, it is improper for men and women to touch each other." This was something he learned from Yin Hanjiang, who wore gloves to touch even Bailey Qingmiao. He really didn't know what Xu Yanyan taught him. The author has something to say. Xu Yanyan. "I can teach a lot, and I promise I know more than Zhong Liqian. Do you want to learn?" Wen Renhe, pondering for a moment. "Just send it to my room." Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 71. The End of Friendship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sect master of Shangqing sect stood in the side hall according to Yin Hanjiang's position and began to cast the spell. It was said that after setting up this formation, the genuine qi of the person who performed life transfer technique could still be retained. The sect master did not move, after a while he found that his genuine qi was not getting depleted as much as he thought and became a little happy. He Wenchao, who was standing outside, looked at Yin Hanjiang and Bailey Qingmiao angrily. At first, he was so overcome with anger that he didn't feel anything, but gradually he realized that the genuine qi in his body was depleting. No matter how much he absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy, it couldn't match the rate of loss. Suddenly, He Wenchao found that he could not move his legs to leave the place where he was standing. He was not stupid and immediately looked at Yao Jiaping and said, "Did you do this?" The flesh under the skin of Yao Jiaping smiled slowly. He had already asked other people of the Shangqing sect to retreat on the ground of needing quietness, so at this moment there were only 5 people in the side hall, including the sect master, Qin Yu, He Wenchao, Yao Jiaping, and Bailey Qingmiao. He Wenchao struggled to use his genuine qi to resist, but found that the more he resisted, the faster he lost his genuine qi. "What exactly did you do?" He Wenchao asked. "Nothing much, it's just that I feel very sorry for your master who had to fall back to the foundation building realm at a very old age. As a disciple, isn't it only natural to share the worries of your master?" Yao Jiaping leisurely said, enjoying looking at He Wenchao's shocked and angry expression. This formation was indeed researched by Yao Jiaping, the use of it very clever. The person inside was not actually the one who was transferring his lifespan but used his genuine qi to maintain the formation, constantly absorbing the genuine qi of the guardian outside, substituting one person for another. Yao Jiaping, who could come up with such a formation, was indeed a strange person with a twisted personality. However, this formation did not have the ability to trap the guard's footsteps. What really Yao Jiaping wanted to see was the guardian of the formation fleeing to preserve his genuine qi, at the same time killing and injuring the 2 people healing inside the formation by the formation backslash. Betrayed by someone they trusted, it was the original intention of Yao Jiaping. Yin Hanjiang naturally did not want to let He Wenchao to escape, so when Renhe refined the talisman that Lu Xinye gave to He Wenchao. The spell was specially designed to restrain the blood demon ancestor. When Renhe, as one of the only 2 blood cultivators in the world during his battle in Underworld Blood Sea, the blood demon ancestor attacked the blood pattern on his soul, making him comprehend the method of restricting the blood cultivation. He made the talisman with chaotic energy, and after He Wenchao drank it, the blood demon ancestor's blood pattern would be suppressed and he would fall into a deep sleep. As for why He Wenchao could not move, it was because Yin Hanjiang had cast a body immobilization spell in time. Without the help of the blood demon ancestor, He Wenchao with his strength could not win against Yin Hanjiang, who had already experienced the tribulation. "Yao Jiaping, you are too vicious." He Wenchao cursed. "Vicious?" Yao Jiaping said. "Inside is your master and uncle who is your life-saving benefactor. Isn't it only natural for you to give up your cultivation and share the worries for your master? The Shangqing sect still needs a sect master who understands the big picture." He Wenchao knew it was useless to talk to Yao Jiaping, so he immediately sent a voice transmission to his master asking him to stop the technique, but unexpectedly his message was blocked. Yin Hanjiang had already sealed the courtyard, so He Wenchao's voice could only be heard by him and Bailey Qingmiao, and could not be transmitted out. Seeing that he had already lost most of his genuine qi and his cultivation had fallen from Mahayana realm to soul transformation realm, he no longer scolded Yao Jiaping, but said to Bailey Qingmiao, Sister, please save me. If this continues, I will become an ordinary person who just started cultivating. You can answer him yourself." At this moment, when Renhe handed the body back to Bailey Qingmiao and let her decide. If Bailey Qingmiao was dazed by the influence of the divine consciousness, then when Renhe didn't want to pay attention to her anymore. It would be better to cherish the time he spent with Yin Hanjiang before the destruction of the 3 realms. Bailey Qingmiao, who regained control of her body, silently looked at He Wenchao and asked. "Senior brother, Master Yao is indeed a bit radical, but what he did was not wrong. You have received great kindness from the 2 seniors, and you have already advanced to the Mahayana realm, so you should be the one to do it. Since I was a child, you have taught me that a cultivator should not be concerned about momentary gains and losses, but should put the greater good first. I always follow your teachings and act in accordance with them. As long as I can save a life, I would not hesitate to get hurt. If you can save your martial uncle's life, what is the loss of some cultivation? The sect master is already old. If his realm is reduced to the foundation building, even if he still says he can still cultivate and come back, but in reality, he is already more than 800 years old. How can the cultivation of a foundation building stage sustain his age of 800 years old? Once the life transfer is finished, the master's life expectancy will shrink according to his realm. This is life for life. But you are different. You are less than 100 years old, and the foundation building realm can let you extend your life expectancy to 150 years or even 200 years. But you can help with life transfer for material Uncle Qingyu. This is the only way for everyone to survive. This was also the reason why Bailey Qingmiao did not step in to stop Wenrenhe. She herself also thought it would be best if He Wenchao could step in instead of the sect master. Junior martial sister. Are you being controlled by Yao Jieping? He Wenchao's heart was anxious, but he still maintained his affectionate expression. Junior material sister, think about me too. I am a direct disciple of the sect master, and fellow disciples are watching me to follow my example. If my realm falls to the level where I am not even as good as outer disciples, what will they think of me? How hard would my life in the sect be? Hearing his words, the only remaining confusion and deep feelings in Bailey Qingmiao's eyes disappeared. She shook her head and said, "Sect master's situation would be even more difficult than yours." She had always believed that her senior material brother was very righteous. Even if he was involved with other women, the matter between men and women was the only thing he could not see clearly. Bailey Qingmiao herself also understood how disturbing the word love was, but she didn't blame her martial brother and just felt sad. At this moment, the things He Wenchao said were very different from the past. He taught Bailey Qingmiao things he himself didn't do. Senior martial brother, you really disappoint me. I had thought that you at least had great love in you. Bailey Qingmiao shook her head in disappointment. She mercilessly turned to Yin Hanjiang and said, He Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao are now finished with each other, and they are no longer related. You and him have grievances, and if you want to repay your grudges, Bailey Qingmiao will not interfere, so our agreement is null and void. Previously, Bailey Qingmiao promised Yin Hanjiang to bring him to the Shangqing sect on condition that he would be judged fairly and not killed. But now, Bailey Qingmiao was completely disappointed with He Wenchao and had no more feelings left for him. So she only felt it was natural that Yin Hanjiang wanted to take revenge and decided to no longer stop him. Originally, I didn't intend to comply either. Yin Hanjiang swept a satisfied glance at Bailey Qingmiao. This honor is very pleased that you could make this decision. He was relieved that Venerable's efforts had not been in vain and that Bailey Qingmiao's decision allowed Wenrenhe to no longer be compared to He Wenchao. It's about time. Yin Hanjiang nodded slightly when he saw He Wenchao realm gradually drop to the foundation building. The sect master of Shangqing sect in the room saw that Elder Qingyue had regained his youth and his cultivation had reached the soul transformation realm, while his realm had surprisingly not fallen, but still remained at the Mahayana realm. Only his genuine qi was depleted, but this was not a problem. Take some pills to supplement his qi and go into seclusion, he should recover after a month. The result was better than he imagined, so the sect master excitedly sent a message to Yao Jieping outside the door. Master Yao is really a miracle doctor. My younger brother has completely recovered, and your formation has even preserved the cultivation of this poor cultivator. After healing, this honor can collect the consultation fee, right? The man outside the door said. Honor. The sect master didn't think too deeply about it and said. Like I said to Master Yao before, as long as I can do it, you can have it. It wouldn't be a problem, Yin Hanjiang transmitted. On the 7th day of the first month, the sect master should summon the sect leaders and important elders of Heavenly Sword sect, Jiuxing sect, Biluo sect and Wuxiang temple as well as the 4 great families of cultivation world to meet at Taiyin Mountain. This honor has something important to announce. This is naturally not a problem, I just don't know what Master Yao plans to do. The sect master wondered. If you are suspicious that I will secretly set up a formation in Taiyin Mountain, you can send your disciples to scout it out in advance. If you agree, make an oath. Seeing that Elder Qingyue had gradually awakened, the sect master thanked Yao Jiaping. In his heart he also felt that nothing would happen if so many experts went to Taiyin where there was no longer a sect, so he vowed to invite experts. Oh, this karma, you can write it down, I'm leaving. When the sect master heard that Yao Jiaping was leaving, he quickly accepted the prescriptions and comforted his younger martial brother before rushing out of the room. As soon as he went out, he was shocked to see his favorite disciple, He Wenchao had turned into a 40-year-old man and was being carried by Yao Jiaping. Yao Jiaping, Bailey Qingmiao, and He Wenchao, who was unconscious, stood on a huge drum. Probably no one in the Shangqing sect was more familiar with this drum than the sect master. 18 months ago, Yin Hanjiang used this drum to chase them all the way to the sect. Yao Jiaping tore off the skin on his face, revealing a handsome but somewhat gloomy face, before smiling calmly toward the sect master. I am Yin Hanjiang. After that he threw He Wenchao to the Bailey Qingmiao, and cast spiritual technique with both hands, and 2 transparent drumsticks condensed from his chi frantically struck the burning sky drum. A crimson flame rose to the sky, taking the burning sky drum into the sky. The Shangqing sect was guarded by the moon departing bell, so you couldn't fly in the sect. But how could Yin Hanjiang, who had the burning sky drum, care about the small restriction of the moon departing bell? At this moment, there were 3 people in Shangqing sect who could control the moon departing bell. The sect master Genuine Qi was exhausted, Elder Qingyue was recovering from a serious illness, while He Wenchao's cultivation was reduced to the foundation building realm. He was also taken away by Bailey Qingmiao. The sect's protection formation was difficult to enter but easy to exit, so who could save the Xinjiang sect? There was no one. If the sect master wanted to stop them, he would have to rush to the moon departing bell and use the maximum power of the formation, but to arrive there he must take a flying boat. By the time he arrives by the flying boat, Yin Hanjiang would have already left. Yin Hanjiang. Do you want to start another war between the righteous and demonic path? The sect master spewed a mouthful of blood from his mouth as he exclaimed. So what? Yin Hanjiang said lightly. Sect master, have you forgotten you lost the massive demon war 30 years ago? If it wasn't for the benevolence and kindness of my lord, who sought a way out for this world's people, how could the righteous path survive for 10 years? Let go of Wenchao and Bailey Qingmiao. The sect master roared. Bailey Qingmiao needs to return to Xianyuan sect to lift the compulsion goo and tracking spell. As for your disciple, what he owes to this patriarch will take it back one by one. Please tell the other sect masters that your disciples are in the Xianyuan sect, and if you want to keep their lives, we will see you at Taiyin Mountain on the 7th day of next month. After saying that, the huge flames broke through the mountain protection formation of the Shangqing sect, and Yin Hanjiang rode the burning sky drum away. After 2 battles in the massive demon war and in the underworld blood sea, no one could stop him, so everyone could only watch as the patriarch of Xianyuan sect came and went from Shangqing sect as he pleased. The author has something to say. Yin Hanjiang. Even if I can't light a lamp, I still want to set a fire. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 72. Meridian Soul Locking Formation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The burning sky drum flew all the way back to the Xianyuan sect in less than half an hour. Yin Hanjiang completely threw off Yao Jiaping's skin and stood on top of the drum, wearing a red robe as he flew against a strong wind, outlining his strong and thin body. The silver belt against his red robe made his waist look thinner. When he arrived above the main altar, he did not land immediately, but said loudly, Disciples of the Xianyuan sect, listen to this patriarch's order. lay out the meridian soul-locking formation. Everyone at the main altar heard his words and were shocked beyond measure. Qiu Congxue, who had been depressed since Yin Hanjiang cut her flesh, suddenly cheered up and grabbed the book. Clutching drooling Xie Huai, who was sleeping by the table, and smiled wildly. "Come, disciple, follow me to set up the formation." What formation?" Xie Huai, who was shaken awake by Qiu Congxue, suddenly pulled out the emotion-extinguishing rod and said. "Why, what's wrong? Is there an invasion?" "It's the meridian soul-locking formation. I have only seen this formation once in 300 years. Qiu Congxue licked her lower lip excitedly. 100 years ago, when Renhe and Yin Hanjiang killed in main altar and the old patriarch who was devoured by the burning sky drum and was already dying, asked us to set up the meridian soul-locking formation to seal them off. At that time it was so dark that day and night turned upside down. Hundreds of experts from the Shenyuan sect laid down a formation, trapping the wounded when Renhe and Yin Hanjiang in the formation. At that time, everyone thought they would die. Qiu Congxue, who had been stabbed in the brain, tried her best to protect the formation and to trap the two of them. The formation was maintained for 3 days and 3 nights. When everyone thought they were going to die in the meridian soul-locking formation, the Polis and Alcade stars shone brightly in the sky. Blood-red sword and 7 stars killing halberd flew out of the meridian soul-locking formation. When Renhe, who also flew out, called back his 7 stars killing halberd, while the blood-red sword turned into Yin Hanjiang, who fell down unconscious and was caught by Wen Renhe and held in his arms with one hand. "To be able to force me to this extent is admirable," Wen Renhe said slowly. "I originally thought that the Shenyuan sect was full of villains, so no one should be left behind. Now it seems that it is possible to govern." When the halberd was waved, a new star map formed above Wen Renhe's head. The battle intent made Wen Renhe feel no pain in his body or soul, and the star power replenished his overdrawn genuine qi. His black robe fell as the star shone behind Wen Renhe's back. It was not a deliberate cultivation technique, but rather a mark left on Wen Renhe when he was still a mortal, when he survived near death on the battlefield. These scars miraculously formed the star map of the 14 main stars, absorbing star power continuously. When the 7 stars killing halberd was swung, more than 100 sect disciplines in the formation were severely injured. At that moment, when Renhe stood at the edge of the sky with Yin Hanjiang in his arms. Some Shenyuan sect people were thinking of joining forces to kill him, but those who could get up, all kneeled down with both knees and hands on the ground, their heads deeply bowed. Kneeling was to pay respect to Wen Renhe's strength that beat hundreds of them. It was not only the 2 men that made the whole Shenyuan sect fall to their knees, they also kneeled to the miracle of the starry sky. From that moment on, Wen Renhe deservedly became the Devil Venerable. Meridian soul-locking formation also became the Shenyuan sect's secret formation, but as long Wen Renhe was with them they would never need this formation, so even during the massive demon war they didn't use it. But today, Yin Hanjiang wanted to use the meridian soul-locking formation. What kind of enemy deserves such caution from him? Your master, this master, from that time onwards made up her mind to advance to the Mahayana realm, and finally gathered courage to enter the hungry ghost path. Qiu Congxue said. "I was afraid of pain and death, but only after that did I realize that cultivation is like sailing against the current, only the word, courage, can determine the situation. But master, your brave seems to be written as reckless." Xie Huai pursed his lips but didn't say anything, afraid that his master would beat him. Meridian soul-locking formation needs at least 90.9 nascent soul experts, but I do not know if we can still get so many people, Qiu Congxue said. "Let's go, master will take you to see the fun." Qiu Congxue and Xie Huai were the first to arrive, followed by Zhong Liqian, Xu Yanyan, who came with a dozen subordinates, all of whom were above the nascent soul realm. Beili Qingniao fell gently. At that moment, when Renhe had already left her body, so she said to Zhong Liqian. "Brother Zhong." Zhong Liqian, who rarely took off his blindfold, took them off to look at the state of Beili Qingniao. enduring the dizziness in her eyes. He put back the blindfold and said with some relief. You have entered the path of Tao. I still have to thank all the seniors for their help. Bailey Qingniao said softly. Who is the meridian soul locking formation for? Xu Yanyan asked. For He Wenchao as well as blood demon ancestor. Bailey Qingniao said. Patriarch Yin broke into the Shangqing sect alone and captured He Wenchao. Now He Wenchao is only at the foundation building realm, but blood demon ancestor is still difficult to deal with, so he should be sealed. Yin Hanjiang captured He Wenchao and you didn't stop him. Xu Yanyan didn't care about the life and death of He Wenchao, but she looked at Bailey Qingniao with slight concern. Protector Xu wasn't interested in falling in love, but she admired lovers. She was also fond of Bailey Qingniao, who was an innocent, non-pretentious, kind-hearted woman who did not place demands on others excessively. If it was possible, Xu Yanyan hoped that Bailey Qingniao could be treated better, but it was a pity that fate got in the way and this kind of passionate love met such a heartless man. Bailey Qingniao smiled. Thank you for your concern, Miss Xu. Bailey has already seen through the mortal world and decided to become dedicated to merciless path. Hearing her call her Miss Xu obviously made her remember the past, so Xu Yanyan said with a smile. When we first met, you were still a little girl who got angry with me for the sake of your senior martial brother. But after 40 years passed, you got on the best path of ascension. The beautiful woman tilted her head slightly to the sky and sighed quietly. The Xu path is difficult and it's harder than going up to the blue sky. There are countless dead bones under the main road and the slightest mistake can cause the destruction of the soul. If you can't find a person who can join hands with you to go against the heavens, it's better to let go of your love and go alone. She said this to Bailey Qingniao, as well as to herself. But it was one thing to be moved by your heart, and whether you were willing to risk your heart for this feeling was another. Xu Yanyan was never a person who was obsessed with love, she was only after strength. Protector Xu did not look at Zhong Liqian, but Zhong Liqian still understood. His eyes might be blinded but his heart was not. This intelligent woman's good intentions Zhong Liqian always understood, so he appreciated Protector Xu. Zhong Liqian never said it because he was clear that this one was a scorpion beauty who always wanted to live her life freely and never be tied down by anything. But Zhong Liqian felt the harsh killing intent from the sky and thought that if he was like these two, the mutual support and love wouldn't be so bad. It was hard to ascend to the top, but it was even harder to understand people. Is everyone here? Yin Hanjiang said in a cold voice. Set up the formation. The square in front of the Shenyuan sect's main altar was originally a huge formation. The 98 experts stood in a position consistent with their own attributes, reserving the middle position for Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang dropped down with the unconscious He Wenchao in his hand and placed the burning sky drum over the main altar before opening the formation. The genuine qi of 90.9 experts circulated with Yin Hanjiang as the center. He controlled the power of so many people with the strength of one person and directed it toward He Wenchao, wanting to seal this person completely. In theory He Wenchao was only a foundation-building realm cultivator, so he didn't need a leash so tight. However, Yin Hanjiang had read The God of Destruction, Volume 2, in which He Wenchao was in trouble numerous times and once he was even forced to explode his own nascent soul. But as long as he was not completely killed, he could always come back from the dead and crush his opponents with even greater strength. In this regard, Yin Hanjiang decided to be very cautious and not only keep his guard up against the blood demon ancestor but also against He Wenchao. Therefore, he made an exception to open the meridian soul locking formation, which was powerful enough to destroy a whole nation in one strike, if it was used for attacking. If it was used to trap someone, even the golden immortal would not escape. The formation lasted for 7 days and 7 nights, during which one Renha spells failed and the blood demon ancestor woke up. In the formation, the blood shadow was so heavy that He Wenchao, an ordinary cultivator, let out the roar of a true demon. You people, you guys. If this ancestor was in his heyday, how could a mere meridian soul-locking formation stand a chance against me? When I get out of this trap, I will absorb the souls of you all. The blood demon ancestor roared. He absorbed the power of 17 experts before, so now it was already very difficult to deal with him. The disciples with low cultivation could not support themselves, and even Xu Yanyan gradually became powerless. Only Yin Hanjiang didn't move a muscle, pointing one hand at blood demon ancestor. He continuously injected his genuine qi into the formation, consuming the blood demon ancestor power, while with the other hand, he performed the spirit spell, making burning sky drum sound loudly while the blood mist faded with each drum. This stalemate lasted for 7 days and 7 nights, exhausting the blood demon ancestor's genuine qi. After being burned by the burning sky drum, he was no longer able to bear it. In fact, Yin Hanjiang was also at the end of his strength, but his expression remained unchanged. He held on until the blood demon ancestor was exhausted and maintained his authority, his voice not wavering at all as he shouted. Destroying the reputation of my lord, attempting twice to assassinate the lord in the underworld. Blood demon ancestor, kneel down. With an angry cry, Yin Hanjiang's finger pressed down hard, and 90.9 channels of black and white qi entered He Wenchao's body. The blood demon ancestor, who struggled for a long time with the help of He Wenchao's body, finally lost his strength and knelt down with both knees facing Yin Hanjiang. The black and white qi locked his genuine qi firmly, making it difficult to escape. Yin Hanjiang's body had been emptied, but his face hadn't changed as he said to Altar Master Shirtan. Throw him into a water prison and make the ghost cultivators guard him day and night. At the slightest movement, immediately notify this patriarch. After recovering from the sickness qi, his cultivation increased greatly, so he just said, I will obey the orders. You too. Yin Hanjiang pointed to Xu Yanyan and Qiu Congxue. Watch Beili Qingmiao for a month. She has not yet attained Mahayana realm with the merciless path, so I'm afraid there may be something that confuses her mind and makes her let He Wenchao go. He added. Altar Master Miao, take the disciples of the righteous path to go to Altar Master Zhong and discuss it with him. Let those righteous paths not dare to disobey this patriarch's invitation. Altar Master Wan, go to the water prison with Altar Master Shirtan and set up a formation to guard it. You have the strongest defense armor. In case of an accident, protect the ghost cultivators as much as possible before this patriarch arrives. These subordinates will follow the orders. All of them said in unison. At this moment, Yin Hanjiang had already proven with his own strength that he was definitely capable of becoming a new Devil Venerable. Withdrawing the burning sky drum, Yin Hanjiang returned to Wenrenha room and covered his heart, forcing himself to hold on. The heart demons and the forceful use of the burning sky drum as well as the meridian soul locking formation were all too much for Yin Hanjiang to bear, but he still did it. Venerable, I have finally subdued the blood demon ancestor. Yin Hanjiang smiled. Although he was exhausted, his smile was still cheerful and happy. He was obsessed with revenge. Even if Wenrenha was still alive, he still wanted it. Not only to take revenge, but also to announce to the whole world that they won't be able to touch the single hair of the Devil Venerable he protected, so if they wanted to kill Wenrenha they would have to go through Yin Hanjiang first. You have done very well, better than me. An illusion beside him, the most unlike the Venerable, came and said softly to Yin Hanjiang. Are you Venerable? Yin Hanjiang looked at him in confusion. Close your eyes. Yin Hanjiang obediently closed his eyes. When Renha slowly touched his head, Yin Hanjiang did really well. Unknowingly, 15 days had passed. When Renha took advantage of Yin Hanjiang's closed eyes and slightly lowered his head, kissing his lips before he pressed his forehead against his forehead. Even if he didn't have a solid body at that time, Yin Hanjiang still felt a hint of warmth on his lips. What's happening? He wondered. When he thought about it, he felt sleepy, and even his soul fell into a deep sleep as when Renha entered Yin Hanjiang consciousness and started the second soul healing. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 73. Re-entering the soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The last time when Renha entered the soul, the situation was urgent, so he only wanted to stabilize Yin Hanjiang's emotions and did not penetrate into his soul. If Yin Hanjiang resisted the other party and refused to open up his soul, it would be futile even if he entered his soul. The previous time, Yin Hanjiang's soul was confused, so after when Renha entered, it was constantly replaying the memories of confessions and reading books. After the last treatment, plus this period of stability, Yin Hanjiang had become much better and there were countless light spots in his soul. When Renha approached one of the light spots and saw it flickering with the scene of when Renha obtaining the snow flame for Yin Hanjiang. He approached another larger light spot which was the scene of Yin Hanjiang capturing He Wen Chao. After looking at a few more, when Renha understood that the different light spots, large or small, were all things that made Yin Hanjiang feel joyful and happy. If the feeling of joy was weaker, the light was smaller, and if the joy was bigger, the light spot was bigger. The largest light spot was the one that Yin Hanjiang saw in the abusive love affair when Renha confessed to him through Bailey Qingmiao. That light spot hung at the highest place of the soul sea, big and round, like a sun. But that largest light spot had some blood-colored stains inside. When Renha consciousness probed into the stain to check it and found some confusing and dark thoughts. There were also traces of heart demons, which was the most painful place for Yin Hanjiang. When Renha somewhat understood that while these light spots were things that made Yin Hanjiang happy, the blood stains were heart demons. He drifted in and out of Yin Hanjiang's soul sea, always searching for the deepest and most painful root cause. Finally, in a deep place, he found a huge blood stain, bigger than the sun in the soul sea. That was probably the root cause. When Renha tried to enter the blood stain, but the blood stain was resistant, not wanting him to enter it. He had to coax softly. "Patriarch Yin, it's me Renha." As soon as he spoke, the blood stain shrank even tighter, not letting him in at all. This was how Yin Hanjiang resisted and didn't want Renha to find out. What should he do? When Renha floated in front of the blood stain, all spots of light and blood were things that already happened. In other words, the biggest blood stain in front of him was something that Renha didn't know about and that Yin Hanjiang wanted to block from him. Even if it was a double cultivation partner, there would still be some forbidden areas. If the other party was not willing to show it, he shouldn't forcefully explore it. But without solving these blood stains, there was no way to cure Yin Hanjiang's heart demon, so it was really a dilemma. When Renha thought for a long time, remembering all the time he spent with Yin Hanjiang. He also remembered that he had a past that he did not want to be known, and suddenly he understood. Since Yin Hanjiang didn't want him to explore it, then let Yin Hanjiang understand him. When Renha opened his arms and said to Yin Hanjiang, "This venerable will never try to invade your forbidden area, I only wish to merge with your soul's sea, and dissolve the barrier between you and me." As he spoke, the blood stain gradually shrank and became so small that Renha could wrap his arms around it and hold it in his arms. Even with Yin Hanjiang's dark past, Renha firmly shielded it with his body, as the blood stain gradually merged into the Renha soul sea. Woo. A strange but nostalgic voice rang in his ears. Someone patted him gently on the shoulder as Renha opened his eyes in daze and saw a beautiful woman standing in front of him, whispering, "It's time to get up." It was his mother. It was that strange woman who could go into battle with her armor when the border town was in a state of emergency. The woman who was able to lead the people of the city to defend the walls for 5 days, until reinforcements came before fainting on the city wall. When Renha found that his body turned into the appearance of a 14 or 15-year-old boy, and understood in a trance that this was his memory. Practice martial arts, read, study. You have a lot of homework today, do not let the teacher wait for you. Mother's palm held a pair of light and short double swords. If Renha didn't get up, these double swords would probably cut his hair. "I'm up, mother." When Renha jumped up, put on his clothes, and washed up quickly. He had grown up in the border town since he was young. The manpower in the border town was so tight that he had no maid and only one boy who practiced martial arts with him. He always did everything himself, and only when he was in a hurry like now he would yell, "Give me the towel and handkerchief." A pair of small tan hands handed over a white handkerchief. Wenrenha froze for a moment when he took it. His boy was gone, replaced by a child who looked only 5 or 6 years old. This child's whole body was blue and purple. Majority of his body was either rotten, dirty, or smelly as he held up the handkerchief tremblingly. It was Yin Hanjiang. When Renha incorporated the blood stain that Yin Hanjiang was most unwilling to face into his divine soul, so Yin Hanjiang, who could find a suitable place to stay within his soul sea, turned into his little boy. This was not a reality, it was Wenrenha's memory. He took the towel and handkerchief, but did not wipe his own face, but picked up the tiny Yin Hanjiang and soaked the handkerchief before gently wiping the little Yin Hanjiang body with a warm towel. The swollen and rotten little hand slapped the towel away and squeezed a word from between his teeth. Dirty. Little Yin Hanjiang was not saying the towel was dirty, but that he was afraid that his body would dirty the towel. The towel is washable, you need to heal your wounds and change your clothes. Wenrenha said. A change in his mood could affect the people in his soul sea's memory, so Wenrenha's mother no longer urged him to do his homework but gently touched little Yin Hanjiang's head and said, "How did little Hanjiang get hurt like this? Wu, quickly help him clean up and send for Dr. Li for medicine." Wenrenha obediently boiled water to clean little Yin Hanjiang while also finding his own childhood clothes for Hanjiang to change into. Then he carried him all the way to the medicine hall of the border town's doctor with his light steps. When he was a teenager, Wenrenha was a white-robed general who always wore a white brocade coat. He leaped over countless houses with Yin Hanjiang in his arms, making many people in the border city look up and discuss that General Wenrenha had almost started to fly. At that time, Wenrenha was a bright young man, his whole person was brilliant and clear. Even the color of the sky of the border town was azure blue. Wu. The little Yin Hanjiang in his arms asked in confusion. Before I entered the path of Tao, my parents named me Wenrenwu. They also discussed the word for the title, and it just so happened that the word Wu was broken up with the words "stop fighting," Wenrenha replied. Unfortunately, that day did not come, when family was killed and Wenrenwu changed his name to Wenrenha. Stepping on the eaves of the house and falling through the door, he shocked the Dr. Li. The elderly but energetic garrison doctor picked up the broom beside him and waved to Wenrenha. "You scared the hell out of me, you little kid. Can't you ever knock on the door properly for once? Every single time you either jump from the room or run in from the backyard. I'm so old. I can't bear to be scared by you." Before the broom came, it was caught by a pair of hands, and little Yin Hanjiang looked at Dr. Li with a gloomy face. Even the dark part of Yin Hanjiang's soul body was very strong. Wenrenha, who was worried that he would take action, was just about to stop him when he heard Dr. Li say, "Oh, whose child is this? How did he become like this? Come in quickly, I'll bandage him." He was picked up from the corpse pile. His parents and relatives were slaughtered by invaders. Wenrenha whispered to Dr. Li. The old doctor's wrinkled face was suddenly filled with compassion as he told Wenrenha to put little Yin Hanjiang on the bed while he himself took out the strong wine and a knife to scrape the rotten flesh from little Yin Hanjiang. When Wenrenha saved Yin Hanjiang, he cured the child with a single pill and his genuine qi. The injuries of mortals were nothing for cultivators, and Yin Hanjiang had no real feelings about the treatment. But this time Dr. Li carefully scraped the rotten flesh and disinfected it with strong wine, making Yin Hanjiang's face twitch with pain. Why did he feel pain? What was Yin Hanjiang thinking at this moment? Dr. Li, who was afraid of hurting the intact flesh, didn't dare to go too fast, so it took him a full 5 hours to clean and the sun moving from the east to west before he could apply the medicine to all the wounds and bandage them up. Little Yin Hanjiang's face was sweaty from the pain, and after Dr. Li said, "It's done," he immediately fainted, his face wrinkled in pain. When you found this child, for how many days he was already injured? Dr. Li pulled Wen Renhe to the side and asked in a low voice. About 3 or 5 days. I found him in a pile of corpses. Wen Renhe didn't know if Yin Hanjiang could hear them, and there was no voice transmission allowed in the Soul Sea, so he lowered his voice to answer. There is something wrong with this child, Dr. Li said seriously. He is too young. I was afraid of hurting his brain, so I didn't dare to use drugs and had to do it the hard way. Some of the rotten flesh is non-sensitive, so it's fine to scrape it down, but some of the half-rotten but unsalvageable flesh should feel very painful to touch. Such a small child, I have been treating for such a long time, during which I also use strong wine to clean the wounds, but he didn't even say a word. If it were you, a face-saving monkey, this old man believes you would also grit your teeth and not cry, but if such a small child doesn't cry, I am afraid he might have a problem here. As he spoke, Dr. Li was a little bit embarrassed as he pointed to Wen Renhe's heart. Heart. The doctor saw the problem with a glance, but back then Wen Renhe left Yin Hanjiang in mountain regardless. He thought it was enough to give him enough food, brand new clothes, the ability to cultivate as well as revenge should be enough. A strong man could not be cowardly. But Wen Renhe didn't think that at that time Yin Hanjiang was still not a man but a 5-year-old boy who still could cry. It's not too late to save this boy. Dr. Li shook his head and said. The left leg is probably going to be lame, and his face and body will probably be full of scars. I know you are busy and Marshal Wen and his wife are very strict with you, but you still have to find time to take care of him more. When I was scraping the rotten flesh, he was in pain but just stared at you. It is obvious that he sees you as his savior, so you should spend more time with him. Junior knows. Wen Renhe said with a low sigh. Junior, what Junior? Dr. Li slapped him on the back of his head. Come with me, you are old enough to be my grandson. Wu knows that. Wen Renhe only had to pick up the name he had discarded for a long time. When Dr. Li patted Wen Renhe's head, little Yin Hanjiang had already woken up and stared eerily at Dr. Li's hand that had patted Wen Renhe's head. After observing silently for some time, Wen Renhe, who gained some understanding from Yin Hanjiang's eyes and thoughts, knew that little Yin Hanjiang was angry at Dr. Li for hitting him. So he sat on the bed and picked little Yin Hanjiang to let him rest his head on his lap and introduced Dr. Li to little Yin Hanjiang. This is Dr. Li, who was also an imperial doctor back then. I am just an old man who was expelled from the palace and exiled to the army for improperly treating concubines. Dr. Li turned his back to the two of them, his back looking a bit depressed. Wen Renhe laughed. Let's not mention what happened back then, but Dr. Li is an excellent doctor. Since he arrived at the border town, he saved the lives of 6,148 border town soldiers. In previous years, he also went to the battlefield with the army and rescued dozens of wounded soldiers for 3 days before collapsing from exhaustion at the rear. My father and brother's lives were hanging by a thread many times, and it was all because of Dr. Li's rescue, that I also. He saw Dr. Li's ears had become red, so he couldn't boast about it anymore, so he just whispered it into the ear of little Yin Hanjiang. When the border town entered the state of emergency, my mother, who was 9 months pregnant at that time, went on the city walls in her armor. When the reinforcements came and she was carried down from the wall, she had already almost had a miscarriage, so if it wasn't for Dr. Li's miraculous hands, I would have died in the womb. Little Yin Hanjiang blinked his eyes. Wen Renhe whispered. Actually, I am his grandson. Little Yin Hanjiang's eyes lit up as he said his first words to someone other than his lord after entering Wen Renhe's Soul Sea. He turned to Dr. Li and said. Grandfather. His voice was still hoarse and a little weak, but when Dr. Li heard it, his beard trembling with joy as he turned around and came to the bed saying. What a good boy. Little Yin Hanjiang grabbed his beard and grinned, touching the wound on his face that had just been bandaged, causing him to hiss in pain. Dr. Li grabbed back his beard and gave a wink to Wen Renhe, meaning that the boy was finally a bit more happy, so he should try to sustain it. Little Een Hanjiang was a little tired, so he fell asleep on Wenrenha's hard, muscular legs after a while. Before falling asleep, he thought, these are the people that his lord wanted to protect. Edited by Ninja, proofread by neol.c. Chapter 74. A World of Chaos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wenrenwu. He had just returned home with little Yen Hanjiang when he heard a loud shout. Are you the thug who secretly wrecked Wang Hu's wine shop the day before yesterday? A sturdy man with broad shoulders and narrow waist who was even taller than the young Wenrenha reached out to flick Wenrenha on the forehead, saying angrily. We border town troops are here to protect the people, how can you disrupt them instead? Wenrenha was in a daze before remembering that this man was his elder brother Wenrentai. The memory was from too long ago, so Wenrenha had to think about it for some time before finally remembering that it was indeed him who smashed it. Wang Hu was a drunken bastard who was afraid of the outside world, staying in the city wall all day long and saying that the border town would not be able to defend itself sooner or later. He said that sooner or later, the Wen family would have to leave, and would be replaced by some drunken officials who would leave the people behind and escape before the city was invaded. When Renha was also in the wine shop a few days ago, the teenage feelings were simple and strong, so disgust was disgust and like was like. He respected his father and brother and thought that as long as there was a Wen family in the border town, it would be absolutely fine. Hearing Wang Hu's words, he was so angry that in the middle of night, he masked himself and spilled Wang Hu's wine, roughly shaving off his full beard, making Wang Hu's chin full of shaving scratches. He thought he was being secretive at that time, but did not expect that a young man of 14 or 15 years old in the border town with good material art skill in the whole border town was probably only Wen Renha. His pair of bright and irritated eyes were different from other people in the town, so he was easy to recognize at a glance. The young man's forehead was completely red, while little Een Hanjiang was so angry that he opened his mouth to bite Wen Rentai's arm. Wen Rentai immediately panicked. "Kid, let go. My arms are too hard. If you bite too hard, you might break your teeth." Little Een Hanjiang. The big man was at a loss in front of little Een Hanjiang, fearing that he might hurt him. He finally had to take it out on his younger brother. "Wen Renwu, are you using this child as a shield because you did something wrong?" "Little Hanjiang, let go." Wen Renwu gently pinched Een Hanjiang's face and said gently. "Your face has just been bandaged, don't tear the wounds." Little Een Hanjiang slowly let go, and Wen Renha hugged Een Hanjiang with one hand while hooking his brother's shoulder with another. Pressing his forehead on Wen Rentai's broad arm, he whispered. "Big brother, it's great to see you again. Even if it was only a memory from his soul's sea." Wen Rentai has been stationed at the border for many years, so his skin was not very good, tanned and a little rough. His tanned face blushed as he lifted his hand full of scars and touched Wen Renha's head, saying as he shook his head. "Don't give me this crap, you won't be able to avoid the beating today." That day, Wen Renha was beaten while his father was in military camp and his older brother was guarding the rear. Wen Rentai pressured him to apologize to Wang Hu and pay for damages in front of people of the border town. He inflicted military justice on Wen Renha in the wine shop, giving him 50 military sticks on his back, splitting his back open. Little Een Hanjiang, held by Wen Renha's mother, was so angry that he wailed and screamed, trying to break free from those soft hands and lunged to protect his venerable's back. "Don't move." The woman, who looked very gentle but actually had a strong backbone, said. "Watch well, no matter what the reason, as a border army, if you do things that hurt ordinary people you will be dealt with according to military law. It's only because he is still young that he is receiving less punishment, otherwise it would not be finished until the stick was broken." Distressed, little Een Hanjiang touched his heart and said. "Of course it hurts, it also hurts this mother's heart to watch her son being hit." A line of tears slid down from Wen Renwu's mother's face, but just she raised her hand to wipe it off as she continued. "But I can't just discard it, the people's livelihood is not a trivial matter. A tear that was not wiped away fell on Yin Hanjiang's small hand. He licked it and it tasted salty. After being beaten, Dr. Li treated Wen Renhe with great force. After being bandaged, he had to kneel in Martyr Temple for the whole day and night. Little Yin Hanjiang wanted to stay by Wen Renhe's side, so the Wen family servant prepared a cushion for him. He just had his legs cut and couldn't kneel down, so he could only sit on the cushion and say angrily. Venerable was right. No, I was wrong. Wen Renhe explained gently. How could Venerable be wrong? Little Yin Hanjiang tilted his head, his eyes full of admiration. Is that how you've always seen me? Wen Renhe smiled and scratched his nose. No wonder in your eyes, I was the one who looked the least like me between those illusions, mentioning the heart demon's illusion and the inability to recognize him. Little Yin Hanjiang's face wrinkled again, looking very annoyed. Fortunately, this was Wen Renhe's soul. See, Yin Hanjiang was also just a soul body, so he wouldn't be affected by heart demons. There was only one young Wen Renwu in his eyes and there was no extra venerable. However, there was a mother and older brother who looked very much like his lord. They hurt the vulnerable, but because they looked too much alike, little Yin Hanjiang could not bear to teach them a lesson. Wen Renhe touched little Yin Hanjiang's little head and said seriously. Yin Hanjiang, I was not born strong nor was I wise since childhood. When I was a teenager, I thought my parents and brother were the gods that could stop all the disasters in the world and the border town could always remain quiet, but it was a big mistake. How can there be an all-powerful people? It was just to show backbone, even if their spine was broken, they wouldn't show any weakness. Wen Renhe told little Yin Hanjiang what would happen after the beating. A month after being punished, his father, Marshal Wen, would return to the border town on his rotation leave. When he heard about this matter, he beat young Renwu again, and only after this beating would he change from a strict father to a loving father and tell him about Wang Hu's past. That old man Wang was 50 years old this year. 40 years ago, when Marshal Wen was also still just a child, a border town was in an emergency but local troops fled. The outsiders invaded and then 10-year-old Wang Hu was hidden in the wine cellar by his mother. The young child, who should still have childish and innocent eyes, witnessed countless evil deeds. Hearing this, Yin Hanjiang also remembered his own past. His heart ached so much that his breathing became difficult. Wen Renhe, who held him in his arms, continued. But he survived and lasted until my grandfather was ordered to take the army to reclaim the border town. He was a war orphan that could go with the army to the nearby government offices, where there were good places that took in these children. But he did not leave the border town and stayed to become a soldier. Before I was born more than 10 years ago, he also threw the stones down the city walls with my mother to keep out the invaders. Then why did he say that? Yin Hanjiang asked. Because what he said is all true. The Wen family clan could not defend this border town forever. Wen Renhe's voice was full of pain. That was the past that even he never dared to recall. This was a vivid life, there was good and evil, there were cunning, treacherous and profiteering people, each of them was not just black or white. Drawing a border town picture full of vitality. Eventually, the whole Wen family was killed. The imperial court ceded the 9 border states to invaders, and on the first day after the ceding, the invaders slaughtered the whole border town, men, women and children. Without sparing anyone. Don't you look at my face. Wen Renhe held the tiny Yin Hanjiang in his arms, keeping his head buried tightly on his chest. Yin Hanjiang tried to raise his head several times, but was pressed back by the teenage Wen Renwu. At this moment he was still a teenager, so he could show weakness. A drop of cold water fell on Yin Hanjiang's hair. Yin Hanjiang thought that these drops should also be salty. Venerable. Yin Hanjiang made a muffled sound in front of the teenager's fresh, sunny-smelling chest. Call me Renwu here. Wen Renhe said. Ah, Renwu. Little Yin Hanjiang blushed and wondered why his chest felt so heavy. When Renwu's body was good, after a few days of being punished, he already bounded back, continuing the battle of wits with his man. He also stole wedding wine from his 10-years-old sister and sat on the roof of the house to drink while also feeding some of it to Yin Hanjiang. After being discovered by his mother, he was pulled by his ear to be spanked. Little Yin Hanjiang sat on a side chair covering his eyes with both hands to watch his brother Renwu being spanked, his fingers spread wide apart, between his middle finger and ring finger, revealing a pair of big, lively eyes. "Mother, don't let him watch me get spanked," teenager Renwu said gloomily. "You still no shame." As he spoke, the mother smacked him again. "Knowing it, you still stole the wine from your sister. You really pissed me off." After being beaten, he was punished with writing apology letters. The teenage one Renwu was unable to sit still, his buttocks still hurting, so he had to lie down on his bed to write. Little Yin Hanjiang was looking at his crooked words, feeling that the writing of his lord was always very good looking. "My writing only became good when I grew up. In those years, I only wanted to practice material arts and didn't like these things. Every day I wanted to cut off my teacher's beard and make a brush from it." Wen Renha laughed and said. "Only later did I realize how useful these things are. Material arts could protect the country, but literature can transform the world. So that's why you looked at Zhong Liqian differently?" Little Yin Hanjiang asked, holding his chin. His body has been mostly healed, but since it was so full of scars it made him look a bit scary. The world of chaos needs the Wen family, but the prosperous world needs people like Zhong Liqian. Without us, the chaotic world will never turn into a prosperous world, but without people like him the prosperous world will soon turn again into a chaotic world. Wen Renha said. A month later, Marshal Wen Ren returned, and as Wen Renha said before, he was beaten again. This time little Yin Hanjiang was no longer angry. He found that here, anyone could beat his brother Renwu easily. He had a small beating every 3 days and a big one every 5. Even his 10-year-old sister, when Ren Yuan, was able to scratch his brother's hand after her wedding wine was stolen. Little Yin Hanjiang's face was full of scars, so he wanted to wear a mask, but soon found that many people in the border town had scars on their faces. Some of them also had broken legs and arms, but no one looked at them differently. Brother Renwu told him that these were wounded soldiers and people who had been injured by mistake. Everyone here was smiling at life with their scars, because once you think about it, you really become pitiful. In this way, Yin Hanjiang also learned to not wear a mask in front of people. There were no people around who looked at him in a different way, and even 10 years old when Ren Yen liked her little brother very much and often gave him vegetables she didn't like to eat. Yin Hanjiang knew that these people were just the memories of his lord, but these deep, hidden memories of his venerable were so gentle. They lived happily for more than a year, but what should come always comes. What had happened could not be changed, and Wen Renha memories faithfully presented that scene. After withdrawing the border army, when Renwu ran back to the capital after recovering from his injuries and saw countless heads hanging on the city head. He rummaged through the piles of corpses and let out a loud cry at the mass grave as little Yin Hanjiang watched this scene in silence. Every one of them looked very much like his lord or not like his lord at all. Just like this people were gone, how easy life could end. At this moment there were 2 lonely people leaning against each other as they started the fire. Those who died by beheading did not deserve to be buried in the tomb so young. When Renwu was not able to buy coffins for his clan, and he himself was still a wanted criminal. He arranged the countless headless corpses in a row and lit them one by one with fire. Little Yin Hanjiang did not help as he just looked at him. As I recall, you seem to love lighting fires. When Renha lit the last small body he suspected to be Wen Ren Yen and turned around to ask Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang fell silent, shook his head, and said in a hoarse voice. I burned the guilty people, hoping that their bodies that once did so much evil to light up the night sky. I thought it was their only use, but it's not the same now. The people of the Wen family were not evil and they would be better off alive. I don't like them being burned. Little Yin Hanjiang covered his mouth to swallow a choked sob. When Renha wiped away his silent tears and whispered. I don't like it either. Yin Hanjiang still remembered that when he first took over the Shenyuan sect, when Renhe ordered his subordinates not to harm ordinary people, and those who disobeyed would be killed by Wen Renhe with extreme cruelty. He suggested indifferently then. Venerable, Shenyuan is a demonic sect. If it's too suppressed, it may rebound. If they dare to rebel, they will all die. Wen Renhe said coldly. They will deserve it. At that time, Yin Hanjiang was ignorant and only knew how to follow orders. But at this moment he understood why Wen Renhe was willing to fall into the path of slaughter, in the midst of blood and death, were things he wanted to protect. Behind Wen Renhe, what is the thing that supports his endless battle intent? The common people that Wen Renhe guarded turned into his never-ending battle intent, while the things he guarded were also guarding him. The author has something to say. Little Yin Hanjiang's career in the marshal's mansion. Little Yin Hanjiang, quietly watching and observing what his lord was like before. Secretly learning the traditional carving art of the Wen clan as he carved many copies of the Venerable and his family and then hiding them under the blanket, feeling that he had the world to himself. Wen Renwu. Why is the bed so cramped? Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo. Chapter 75. Scars of the Past. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Holding the little Yin Hanjiang who was only 6 years old in his arms, Wen Renhe rode the horse slowly along the road as he moved towards the gate of the border town. Little Yin Hanjiang raised his hand and touched the bandage on Wen Renhe's face. Is it scary? Wen Renhe asked. His face and hands were covered with burns, which were caused by the young Wen Renwu himself. The Ren family had been beheaded. Wen Renwu rushed back to the capital with the help of Marshal Wen's guards but didn't archive anything except collecting the bodies of his parents. His father's friends could not help him much, but they still prepared a false identity for him and told him to go as far as he could, and never return until the Wen family was absolved of their injustice. Wen Renwu was still a wanted criminal, so in order to not give other people trouble and also protect himself, he ruthlessly jumped into the fire, burning his face. Before it could heal, he quickly left the capital, and when he was passing through the checkpoint his bandage was torn off by officers and soldiers who did not believe he had burns, thus traveling with swollen red flesh and blood. It's not scary. Little Yin Hanjiang shrank in his arms, thinking of the way the young Wen Renwu spent those years. His whole family was loyal, but he was the only one left. He was only a 15-year-old boy, and not long ago he was still naughty and mischievous boy. But now he was all alone, needed to hide his true name, suppress his bravado and elegance, and burn his own handsome face to fight against the world full of malice. Cultivators could heal any wounds. The first time Yin Hanjiang met Wen Renhe, he was already cultivating for 200 years and had superb strength, just like a god. Wen Renhe, who was unmatched in the entire cultivation world, was like a physical manifestation of what it means to be strong. No one could have imagined that he had such a past. Even if Yin Hanjiang had heard Wen Renhe mention his past occasionally, he could not associate the two. Only at this moment did Yin Hanjiang understand more than ever that his lord was not a god, but a human being with blood and flesh. Wen Renhe also understood more than anyone what pain was. Little Yin Hanjiang climbed upwards and wrapped both hands around Wen Renhe's neck, raising his head to kiss Wen Renhe bandage, and whisper. It hurts. What are you thinking about? Wen Renhe nudged Yin Hanjiang's head. It's been more than 350 years ago, how could it still hurt? In the Soul Sea, some specific scenes cannot be changed. After all, it was something that had already happened. When the Soul Sea of Wen Renwu memories was too emotional, Wen Renhe would also involuntarily synchronize. But since memory was already so bleak, Wen Renhe could maintain a calm state of mind. Little Yin Hanjiang said nothing, but buried his head in his shoulder and said nothing. They traveled in this way for half a year before arriving at the border town. At this moment the border town was no longer the same as back then. All 9 cities on the border had been ceded to the invaders. Back then, I knew I couldn't kill that shitty emperor, so I ran toward the border. I wanted to assassinate the foreign generals and kill them one by one. Wen Renhe said to Yin Hanjiang. There was also my own war halberd in that place, so I was bent on returning to the border town and getting my weapon back from home. Young Yin Hanjiang's heart clenched. He watched quietly as the teenager Wen Renwu did not take the letter of recommendation to become a minor official and instead crossed the city wall alone late at night, relying on his strong martial arts skills. When Renwu relied on his legs to run frantically for hundreds of miles, after running for several days and nights, avoiding the foreign army, he finally arrived at the border town. Teenager Wen Renwu thought of home. Although his family was gone, there were still traces of his life in the border town, there was still his weapon as well as wedding wine his parents prepared for his sister. But the night he arrived at the border town, he saw the fire from afar. He killed a single invader soldier and changed into his clothes. When he went into the city he saw an abandoned city in flames. Dr. Li, Wang Hu and many other people he had known were now corpses laying all over the place. The invader soldiers found Wen Renyan's wedding red wine in the mansion and were drinking it to their heart's content. When Renyan was young and still had no idea about marriage, she only knew that marrying someone she should find a person like her father who would spoil her. She knew that her father loved to drink, so she especially cherished her wedding wine, thinking about digging it up when she marries in the future and taking it home. She also bragged in front of Wen Renwu all day long that she had good wine, so she became very angry when Wen Renwu stole some of her wine. The young girl's wine, which was as precious as her lifeblood, was trampled on and broken, one by one against the door of the dilapidated marshal's house. Kill. Kill them. Burn them and refine them into an oil lamp to light an everlasting soul lamp. Little Yin Hanjiang's face distorted as he spoke by Wen Renhe's side. This was Wen Renhe's soul-see memory, so when Wen Renhe fell into a certain emotion, Yin Hanjiang would become isolated from this world. If Wen Renhe could see him, people around him would be able to see him, but if Wen Renhe couldn't see him, no one would be able to see him either. At this time Wen Renwu didn't see Yin Hanjiang. As he looked at this painful scene his hands clenched tightly, his fingernails scratching his palms as he forced himself to endure. Can't go, can't go. He was the only one alive from the whole family, he must live. There was no use killing a handful of people, as long as he was alive, he still had a chance. He covered his eyes, turned around and ran wildly. Fleeing the town until he was in a deserted place, only to fall helplessly to the ground and curl up, burying his face deeply in his arms and making a wailing sound unlike any a human could make. Little Yin Hanjiang watched Brother Renwu from the side, he could only watch. Then he saw a man descend from the sky and stand beside Wen Renwu with a lofty attitude. He said, "I was originally attracted by the bloody aura of this town, thinking of catching a few resentful souls to cultivate, but I didn't expect that this dead people wouldn't have enough resentment. I thought I had made a trip for nothing, but I didn't expect to meet such a good seedling as you." Yin Hanjiang could see that this was a demonic cultivator, or rather nascent soul realm demonic cultivator. Hearing someone suddenly speak, Wen Renwu hid all his sorrow and raised his head to ask coldly, "Who are you? I should be considered a god for you mortals, ha 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 ha." The demonic cultivator laughed proudly and said to Wen Renwu, "How about it? Do you want to take revenge? I have a set of cultivation methods for the slaughter path, which is different from the path I cultivate. It's a pity to throw it away, so I need someone to try it out. Do you want to practice?" Wen Renwu actually refused, by saying, "No matter how high the individual strength is, it can't beat thousands of troops. My family's martial arts are high enough, so I don't need yours. Ha 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 ha. Just some martial arts." The demonic cultivator baited. "In the battlefield, swords have no eyes, even if your material arts are high, you will die. But this technique is different. I won't worship a master." When Renwu was not stupid, this encounter had made him feel very defensive. "I don't need you to worship me either, I just want to see the power of this cultivation method." The demonic cultivator said, "Look at what is written on the general outline of this cultivation method. The killing Tao is the supreme cultivation method of the demonic path. The person who has accomplished it will become the #1 cultivator of the demonic path, and no one in the cultivation world will be able to beat him." TSK, how could they brag about it when in the last sentence it is said that throughout the ages, there have been more than 1,000 people who have cultivated this method, but no one has cultivated the nascent soul realm, and they still dare to brag that this method is supreme. Why should I believe it? How about it? Do you want it? If you want it, just hand over a drop of your heart blood. The demonic cultivator tossed the book in front of Wen Renwu. The demonic cultivator turned the first page over and placed it in front of Wen Renwu's eyes, who only with a glance became attracted to this mysterious cultivation method recorded there. But after reading only a few lines, the demonic cultivator closed the book and spread his hands viciously to Wen Renwu. "I'm not hiding anything from you. I can use this drop of your heart blood to control you, if you succeed in forming a nascent soul. Then I can seize your nascent soul and switch to slaughter path. But if you fail to achieve a nascent soul, or you will not survive the heavenly tribulation and die, I will be able to dig out your golden core and make a potion." Demonic cultivator said. "But either way, you will have enough time to improve your strength and take revenge. How about it?" Wen Renwu hesitated for a long time before finally reaching out his hand and offering a drop of his heart blood and taking the book. The demon cultivator smiled and flew away. Wen Renwu, seeing that these people could actually fly, clutched the cultivation method given by that person even more, with a deformed face and gloomy eyes. "Brother Renwu." Little Yin Hanjiang hugged Wen Renwu's legs firmly. No matter how much he shouted just now, he could not wake up. "Don't worry, it's okay, it's all over." Wen Renha put down the book and bent over to hug little Yin Hanjiang, who nodded and said, "It's just a memory of what happened more than 300 years ago. Am I not alive and well now?" It is also true what this demonic cultivator said: whoever cultivated this method will have the strength of 100. Who knew that little Yin Hanjiang would wrap his arms around him and murmur, "A.Wu, my A.Wu. Not venerable but A.Wu. At this moment Yin Hanjiang was suffering with Wen Renha with all his heart. It was not the respect of the past when he put him above other people, or the loyalty of a subordinate who wanted to guard his master. What he wanted was to protect Wen Renha with his own small body from the endless malice in this world. "Don't cry." Renwu didn't even shed a tear. When Renha touched little Yin Hanjiang's head and unexpectedly found that the scars on Yin Hanjiang's face and body had disappeared. Dr. Li said when he was treating little Yin Hanjiang before that if the treatment didn't go well, this child would definitely be scarred and his leg would be lame. But this was when Renha's soul see, not Yin Hanjiang, so if Yin Hanjiang wanted to heal, he could completely recover. But he didn't. He was scarred and crippled just like Dr. Li said. He was also gloomy and rarely spoke, so no one knew what he was thinking. Unexpectedly, his injury has now healed on his own accord. When Renha examined his smooth little face and asked, "Why did it suddenly get better?" Yin Hanjiang touched his face and was also puzzled. He did not have any thoughts of wanting to be cured, yet he slowly recovered without realizing it. Both of them didn't understand it. When Renha thought for a long time but couldn't make sense of it, so he just touched Yin Hanjiang's head and said, "It's great that you are recovering." He looked at Yin Hanjiang intently, feeling the emotions of that year again, making Wen Renha realize why he had left Yin Hanjiang on the mountain unattended after saving him. To him, Yin Hanjiang was an unfinished oath. The moment Wen Renha picked up Yin Hanjiang, his old dusty memories awakened and evoked the pain in his heart. History was repeating itself in front of him, and looking at this young child, he didn't know how to comfort him. All Wen Renha could do was to give him all that he had not received. A body that was healed, a safe environment, a cultivation method that was absolutely safe, a sword that could enhance his strength, as well as a border that already became stable when Yin Hanjiang became an adult. So he once again clad himself in armor and went into battle, for the sake of the realm that he could not improve for a long time, as well as a child, so it would no longer harm this world. Edited by Ninja proofread by Neo. Chapter 76.1. My Wu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The passage of time in the Soul Sea was completely different from the outside world. Its time flow was related to the profoundness of one Renha memories. The following 10 years passed in a flash, but Yin Hanjiang experienced it as if it was a mere moment. He was a bystander in this world as he watched 10 years pass quickly in front of him. He saw as when Renwu changed his name and ran around the 9 cities, trying his best to save the people in front of him, secretly building up his strength and waiting for his chance. At the same time, the current dynasty has undergone earth-shaking changes in the past 10 years. When the new emperor ascended the throne, the country gradually became richer and the military strength was once again strengthened. The new emperor had the ambition to reclaim the lost territories, and when he accumulated enough power, the war would start. When Renwu took this opportunity to unite the underground forces of the 9 cities, and in one fell swoop drove invaders out. With his strong martial arts skills, his military skills, and the support of the people of the 9 cities, he built a strong army, and when the time came he announced his identity as the orphan of Marshal Wen Ren, immediately responding to all the calls. Under his influence, the court had to overturn the case for Wen family. When Renwu, who hibernated for 10 years, finally went on a campaign and in one stroke retook the 9 cities, and beat the invaders all the way to the depths of the prairie. At this time, the cultivation genius was already at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Through the battle, when Renwu quickly reached the Golden Core realm, but then he felt he reached a bottleneck. A bottleneck that he could not break through no matter how many people he killed or how much lost land he recaptured. As that cultivation method said, it was very difficult to break through to the nascent soul realm on slaughter path. At this time, that demonic cultivator appeared again. He came up with an idea that when Renwu hadn't yet refined his own soul-bound magic weapon. At that time, a meteorite fell on the prairie and flames of the meteorite gradually set the whole prairie on fire. The prairie burned for half a month and invaders no longer had grazing places while cattle and sheep starved to death. When Renwu, who found the meteorite, used that fire to refine his original magic weapon. The war halberd was already finished, but no matter what, it could not be absorbed into his body and used as his soul-bound magic weapon. The prairie fires left the invaders with no power and no backup, so they submitted a surrender to the court, willing to become a vassal state and pay tribute to the court every year. The new emperor decreed peace and the 3-year-long war finally ended. But when Renwu could not accept it anyway. On the day the border town was slaughtered, he vowed to kill all the invaders whether they were soldiers or shepherds. He wanted to slaughter them all. The official who came to the imperial court to surrender was from a branch of the Zhong family, named Zhong Liqiu, who was also a golden core cultivator who entered the mortal world to gain some reputation. When Renwu was subdued by him in one move and was forced to hand over his military power and placed under house arrest. There was a fire in his heart as he held his newly made halberd in his hand. His brows were full of fierce aura, showing signs of being possessed by heart demons. After 15 years, Yin Hanjiang, who was still short and small at that time, saw this appearance of his lord for the first time. He stepped forward and hugged his lord's leg worriedly, wanting him to regain his wisdom, but when Renwu, who was immersed in the memories of the Soul Sea, could not see him. TSK, you don't seem to be able to break through to the nascent soul realm with this state. That demonic cultivator appeared again, estimating that these days when Renha should be able to reach nascent soul, so he would often wander around the border waiting for that time to come. He said probingly. Slaughter path cultivation is indeed fast. It is unheard of to go from the Qi enlightenment realm to the peak of golden core in just 10 years, but you didn't make any progress in the next 5 years. Slaughter path cultivation is easier compared to other cultivation methods as long as you kill people, but the more you kill, the more your heart is filled with heart demons. The more heart demons, the more they flourish, making it very difficult to survive the first heavenly tribulation of a nascent soul. No wonder that in the slaughter path the nascent soul realm is a threshold. No one can achieve it, that's why. When Renwu waved his battle halberd at him, making the demonic cultivator back away and say, "Oh, look at you, you have such a murderous aura that you even want to kill me. How about this, I will give you a solution, your magic weapon cannot be integrated into your body probably because it has no spirit. The spirit is either nourished by heaven and earth, or by ghost souls sealed inside. Didn't you capture a lot of war prisoners? There are also those shepherds who fled to the 9 cities because of the fire and are held in refugee camps, adding up to 100,000 people. They are not your people and their hearts are different. They also have enmity with you so they can't be considered human. Think about it, 100,000 evil spirits refined into the war halberd, 100,000 kills, can't it help you break through the nascent soul realm? With the nascent soul realm, that Zhong family disciple who entered the mortal world, what can he do to you? Hundreds of lives of the one family, but is it enough to just shed light on the injustice? Wouldn't it be better to make yourself an emperor, to kill those corrupt officials and overthrow the emperor, to become emperor yourself? The words that seemed to have been poisoned eroded when Renwu, he left the marshal's house at night with his war halberd and rushed into the refugee camp, sweeping his eyes over the wounded and exhausted refugees who were sleeping together. The faces of these outsiders were hard to distinguish, in when Renwu's eyes the faces of these people gradually overlapped with the foreign soldiers who had slaughtered the border town that day. Wu Yin Hanjiang, who still maintained the body of a 5 or 6-year-old child, frantically grabbed when Renwu leg, hoping to wake him up. But this place was just a memory, so everything Yin Hanjiang did was meaningless. When Renwu raised his halberd and aimed it at a foreign prisoner of war wearing tattered clothes, and was about to strike, when suddenly a child's weak "Amu, I'm hungry," make him come back to his senses, looking at the halberd in his hand, his body could not stop trembling. What was he doing? Attacking the defeated soldiers, the old and weak women and children just to seal their souls on this halberd forever. Ha! What are you thinking about? The demonic cultivator asked. Why don't you do it? Once upon a time, he who once swore to guard the people of the border town had turned into the same murderer as the foreign soldiers. What did Zhong Lichu say when he disobeyed the order and insisted on slaughtering the full clans of foreigners? Zhong Lichu said, "Martial Wen, you use your army like a god. Your martial arts are unparalleled. You can kill all the creatures on the whole prairie by yourself, but what about that? Tomorrow, the spring breeze will blow, and the grass will grow again. The prairie needs to be taken care of, and there need to be people to take care of cattle and sheep and breed the horses. If you kill these people, where will the court find people to tend to horses and sheeps? Do you want to leave it to your border army to manage, or do you want to occupy the land as king? Or maybe you want to let the exiled prisoners herd the sheep, do you want to make a new tribe again? You are a military general, you want to go to battle to kill the enemy and protect your country. But years of conquests will only empty the treasury, and hostility with the foreigners will only make the border people more unhappy. The only way is to beat them until they are in pain and then tame them by education, open mutual markets and through that trade open a line of defense on our border prairie, in order to truly guard the frontier. You said that the revenge of the massacre of the border town 15 years ago has not been avenged, I understand, but in the long run, this revenge can only end here. At that time, when Renwu just thought Zhong Lichu was bullshitting since this matter didn't hit him personally. He didn't understand how difficult it was to resolve this hatred. But now, he stood frozen in the air, looking down at the prisoners in the refugee camp who were alive and were not ghosts from his past. Killing them to refine his soul-bound magic weapon, he could advance to the nascent soul realm and truly become a god of slaughter. Let them go and there might be no possibility of advancement forever, while the demonic cultivator next to him was still waiting to dig out his golden core. When Renwu's eyes slowly shifted from the prisoners of war to the demonic cultivator, this demonic cultivator, who called himself Insha Sanren, said suspiciously, "What are you looking at me like this? Those ants below are your target, there are so many people you don't even have to kill them to collect their souls. Look at them, suffering from war and fire, each of them are full of resentment. What a good material for refining weapons. That I am reluctant to give them to you. As he spoke, the long halberd in one Renwu hands rose, but this time not toward prisoners of war, but at In Shah. Edited by Ninja, proofread by Neo.